Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has Madara sharingan and fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Demon Knight 939 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. The day the sky opened. Crocus, the capital of the kingdom of Fiori, sprawled across a vast valley, cradled by rugged rocky mountains. A gentle river wound its way through the heart of the city, its waters reflecting the vibrant hues of life that thrived within. As the largest town in the kingdom, Crocus was not only a hub of activity but also a sight of wonder, especially with the majestic Mercurius, the king of Fiori Palace, looming above. To the west, atop a towering cylindrical stone formation, lay the Domus Flau, the arena for the prestigious Great Magic Games. The very air seemed charged with anticipation, echoing the tales of glory and rivalry that had unfolded within its walls. Yet today, the beauty of Crocus was overshadowed by a looming threat. A chilling atmosphere gripped the city as the forces of Fiori rallied together against a perilous menace, Future Rogue, intent on bringing chaos through his control of a horde of dragons via the ominous Eclipse Gate. Mavis stood before the closed gates of Eclipse, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Not one of them could slay a dragon, she mused, her voice barely a whisper, the weight of her thoughts heavy upon her. Her attention was drawn skyward as dark clouds gathered ominously, swirling like a tempest of foreboding. While most would attribute it to nature's whim, Mavis felt the disturbance deeply. Something was brewing that transcended mere weather. Fire breath. A voice echoed in the distance. Stupid stripper. Another retorted, the banter amidst the chaos of the gathered mages fading into the background. Makarov, unfazed by the commotion, could feel the tension thickening in the air. He raised his eyes to the heavens, noting the unnatural crackling of the clouds, which were heavy with the promise of rain. It was odd. The rainy season had not yet arrived. His heart sank as he observed debris beginning to levitate, a sign that something sinister was afoot. A grim thought flickered through his mind, this is a bad omen. Mavis, sensing the gravity of the situation, turned her gaze to Makarov. You feel it, don't you? She asked, her voice tinged with concern. The seriousness of the moment loomed over them both. Yeah, Makarov replied, his expression hardening. Something is coming, something big. This threat is greater than what we just faced. I have a bad feeling about this. First, Altair had just stepped away after exchanging her farewells, her presence noticed by Wendy, who watched her with tear-filled eyes. Altair glanced at the sky, her instincts prickling with foreboding as another tremor shook the atmosphere. Suddenly, the sky roared with thunder, drawing the attention of the nearby mages. They looked up in unison, witnessing a breathtaking, yet terrifying, display as the heavens lit up with a golden-orange glow. The air crackled with energy, and debris began to rise as if gravity had lost its grip. What was that? Laxus shouted, shaking off the shock as he surveyed the scene, his thunder tribe standing close behind him, unease evident on their faces. Makarov planted his foot firmly on the ground, urgency etched across his features. I don't know, but everyone, brace yourselves. Natsu, frozen in place, felt his heart race. He gulped, the raw power radiating from the sky striking fear deep within him. Lucy trembled beside him, her eyes wide with terror. That power is greater than Acnologia, Guildarts thought, clenching his fist in disbelief. This was bad. Before they could digest the gravity of the situation, a figure landed behind Makarov, prompting him to spin around in surprise. Recognition dawned on his face as he took in the presence of Mystigan, his heart sinking at the implications of his arrival. Mystigan, Makarov murmured, his eyes narrowing with concern. Mystigan! Wendy exclaimed joyfully, rushing forward, but Mystigan quickly tempered the excitement with urgency. Wendy, he said, offering a brief smile before focusing on the task at hand. Unfortunately, we have no time for reminiscing. That's the real Mystigan, huh? Sting remarked, and Rogue nodded in agreement. He's one of Fairy Tail's most powerful members. Or at least he was, Rogue added, a hint of admiration in his voice. What's wrong, Mystigan? Does your arrival have anything to do with this? Urza asked, gesturing emphatically at the chaotic skies. Mira stood beside her, worry etched on her face. I was at the palace when I felt it, Mystigan explained, urgency lacing his voice. I rushed here as soon as I realized what was happening. What do you mean? Natsu interjected, confusion evident as Grace shifted closer, curiosity piqued. Juvia and Gijil stood behind them, absorbing the atmosphere. Before Idolas, I was dedicated to sealing the anima that drained magic from our world, Mystigan continued. I tracked its energy spikes whenever my father attempted to open it. Anima? Sting inquired, furrowing his brow in confusion, while both he and Rogue shared the same perplexed expression. Not now, Mystigan replied tersely before pressing on. I felt a familiar energy, a spike that shouldn't exist. At first, I thought someone had resurrected my father's ambitions, but when I arrived I found nothing touched. Guildart's eyes widened as realization set in. You don't mean? Mystigan nodded gravely, his gaze returning to the trembling sky. Another world unlike ours is merging with Earthland. And from what I can sense, they won't come in peace. This instability has been growing since yesterday. What the hell are you talking about? Sting asked, frustration seeping into his tone, still struggling to grasp the situation. Urza's frown deepened. Just when we thought we had one problem under control, another one arises. Master, what do you suggest? She turned to Makarov, who was lost in contemplation. We must prepare ourselves, Makarov said, the gravity of the moment weighing heavily on him. The last invasion was brutal, but we managed to contain it. This time, however, we may not be able to face this alone. That's a possibility, Mystigan agreed, casting a cautious glance skyward. Lucy pointed upwards, her voice quaking. If they're not friendly, how do we confront someone that powerful? This feels like it's going to be another large-scale battle, and many of us are already exhausted. Silence enveloped the group as the mages contemplated Lucy's words. Finally, Laxus scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. For all we know, it might just be a spike of energy, nothing more. Makarov smirked slightly at Laxus' bravado. This magic signature, it eases my nerves just a little. A quiet chuckle escaped him, puzzling the mages around him. Just then, 3 figures landed on the battlefield, sending a cloud of dust swirling through the air. The mages looked on in astonishment as the dust began to settle, revealing the newcomers. Isn't that? Gray's voice trailed off, disbelief etched on his features. The Saints of Ishgar, Mavis said, her face breaking into a smile. Warad Sequin, Hyberian, and Wolfheim. The 3 figures surveyed the scene, their expression serious. Warad stepped forward, addressing the mages. From your reactions, it's clear you felt it too. Wolfheim frowned, crossing his arms. This is no trivial matter. Laxus' frown deepened. Their presence here signified the seriousness of the situation. Warad, Hyberian, Wolfheim, Makarov greeted, walking towards his comrades with a sense of relief. I'm glad to see you, and not arguing. We don't have the luxury of time for that, Wolfheim replied, his deep voice resonating with urgency. Where's Serena? Makarov inquired, an eyebrow raised. We'll discuss that later, Warad replied, his expression grave. Makarov gestured to the ominous sky. What do you think? All I can say is that this won't be easy, Warad said, his gaze steady on the trembling skies. Not when you have the backing of all the guilds, Waradsan, Goldmine interjected, stepping forward with a reassuring smile. The other guildmasters stood beside him, their resolve clear as their members ready for battle. I hope that's enough, Hyberian thought grimly, his eyes reflecting the uncertainty hanging over them all. As they stood together, gazing up at the swirling energy above, a profound sense of unity formed among the mages. They all knew one thing. Fiori was about to face an unwelcome visit from another world, and they could only hope it wouldn't turn out to be hostile. Shockwaves resonated through the skies as 2 blurs clashed to the awe of few. Kakashi looked up, observing the battle. Sakura was seen, looking down in tears. She wept, cradling an unmoving Sasuke Uchiha, whose eyes were shut. Kakashi spoke. Sakura, compose yourself. Let us mourn for Sasuke later. Right now you should be thinking of what Naruto is feeling right now. Sakura shifted her tired eyes to the skies, watching a collision ripple the very atmosphere, creating cracks in the air. The cracks realigned, before emitting a tremendous earthquake that destroyed the mountain the 2 powerhouses were on. Naruto. Sakura thought on, hopeful expression on her face. Rarg. Naruto sent forth a black raisin shuriken courtesy of the black flames of Amaterasu, towards an irritated Madara. The Uchiha willed a truth-seeking ball to create a shield that blocked the assault. The collision was immense. The 2 attacks struggled against each other, trying to destroy each other. Courtesy of the black flames, which were searing hot, the shield began to melt slightly. Naruto clicked his teeth in annoyance while in his 6 paths mode. He dashed through the resulting explosion to channel a Sage Chakra-enhanced punch that shattered the barrier, dissipating the flames, and continued straight to connect with Madara's chest to the latter's shock. Madara was sent to the floor in a tremendous shockwave. Madara spat out blood as he collided with the earth, emitting a voluminous amount of dust to the skies. Gritting his teeth, he looked up immediately to see Naruto coming down with a huge black Rasengan. Shit! Zenith! Naruto roared, sending the Rasengan crashing into the earth, a huge shockwave being the result. The attack was so powerful it crumbled the earth it came in contact with. The technique proceeded, creating a wide crater so deep that its bottom could not be seen in the airy night. The rage behind the technique was felt as the effect rippled through the battlefield. The air was completely saturated with power, showing that the arena of the battle was heavily coated with the energies of the 2 combatants. This battle was changing the atmosphere, and the entire landscape was being reshaped permanently. Naruto flew out of the crater slowly, looking forward to a grinning Madara who escaped unharmed. The wind pulsed through them as Madara's unnaturally long hair flowed in accordance with the wind. Naruto's hair remained the same, although coated by the illuminating effect of his power, it gained a golden hue. His normal tan skin was pure gold coated effectively by the sage's power. His attire then began to change slowly, from a golden 6 paths mode to pure white, the sage of 6 paths mode. A white aura was seen encasing his entire body as his hair slowly became white to Naruto's ignorance. TCH. Naruto clicked his teeth in annoyance and anger, noting that Madara had survived his onslaught. I can't believe it! You are the most powerful opponent I have ever faced in my life. Madara praised with condensation. Even Hashirama couldn't compare to this. He looked to his palm maniacally. This is magnificent. And to think all it had to take was the death of Uchiha Sasuke. Is that so? Naruto muttered, descending slowly to the floor. The earth trembled at the rage riveting through Naruto. Cracks slowly spread, and deepened, until the earth couldn't house his power anymore. It caved in considerably, as Naruto sent Madara away at a tremendous speed with a punch so concussive, it broke the sound barrier in a huge clap sound. I will kill you, Madara. Naruto spoke with nothing but mirth. His killing intent doubled, washing over the entire land. His chakra increased to unsurmountable heights, as he flew vengefully after Madara. Madara was sent flying backwards through the air, before he quickly recovered, willing a truth-seeking ball to create a platform which slowed him down before he rotated his jaw. Grunting, he could see a white dot approaching. He smirked, morphing his fingers to make a ram sign, divine art, and Naruto's sage eyes narrowed as his view of Madara was blocked by a huge wall of earth that rose up from the ground, stretching to the skies. He looked around in alarm as instantaneously, he was encased, as 4 slabs encased him in a cubic barrier. Runic inscriptions were shown on them, behest of the lightning divinities. A huge bolt of lightning, considerably greater than Sasuke's Kirin, blasted down from the heavens to Naruto's impassive gaze. It struck down with power, destroying the cube Naruto was in, and proceeded to envelope everything in a white light. Madara frowned, before seeing the lightning being absorbed into Naruto's palm. His eyes then widened after looking into Naruto's eyes, seeing a Rinnegan similar to Sasuke's appear. What? With a surge of chakra, Naruto pulled Madara toward him with a force that felt like the weight of a collapsing star. Madara roared in defiance, struggling to regain his footing as the 2 divine beings vied for supremacy, their chakra clashing violently in the space between them. You will not win this, Uzumaki. Madara declared, his voice a low growl filled with contempt. Shut the hell up. Naruto shot back, his tone fierce as the chakra of all the tailed beasts resonated within him, amplifying his attack. Madara gritted his teeth, anger flashing in his eyes as he was yanked through the air toward Naruto. A victorious grin spread across Naruto's face as he halted the technique, willing Madara to remain suspended before him. The wind howled around Madara, a testament to his refusal to submit. In that brief moment, time seemed to stretch infinitely. Naruto's smirk met Madara's resentful glare, and the realization hit him like a thunderbolt, that I was at Sasuke's. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto unleashed a repulsive force, sending Madara hurtling away as a chunk of earth was torn from the ground. Madara careened across the landscape, rolling uncontrollably like a rag doll, kicked by the relentless power of Naruto's Shinra Tensei. He finally came to a stop, using the back of his hand to slap away the debris that threatened to crush him. As he looked up in alarm, his eyes widened in recognition of the massive black mass above him. Planetary devastation? That brat! Madara's fury erupted as he felt the gravitational pull drawing him toward the shimmering black orb. The rocky debris surrounded him, constricting his movements. Naruto raised his palm toward the sky, his voice ringing with mock pride. You should be proud, Madara. I learned this one from you. A meteor, reminiscent of the one Madara had previously unleashed upon the shinobi army, plummeted toward the encased mass of chakra. The ground shook as the meteor collided with devastating force, creating a shockwave that rippled through the earth, threatening to tear it apart. A deafening blast resonated across the battlefield, echoing the sheer might of the attack. Clouds of debris erupted into the air, obscuring Madara's fate from Naruto's view. He closed his eyes, concentrating, scanning the land for any sign of his adversary. Suddenly, Naruto's eyes snapped open just in time to block a punch with his palm. The impact reverberated through the air, rattling his bones. Gritting his teeth, he looked up to see Madara smirking down at him, an expression that ignited a fire within Naruto. Taijutsu was always my forte, Uzumaki. Madara taunted, launching into a series of devastating strikes that turned the tide of battle. Naruto struggled to regain his footing, but Madara's relentless assault culminated in an overhead kick that sent him crashing into the ground. Blood spilled from Naruto's lips as Madara pressed his palm against him. Almighty push, ack. The earth groaned as it caved in under the force of Madara's attack, driving Naruto deeper into the ground. Madara's grin widened, reveling in his dominance as he unleashed the technique again. Almighty push. The crater deepened, the sound of his power echoing throughout the elemental nations. What are they doing now? Sakura gasped, her eyes glued to the horizon, where waves of dust billowed into the sky. She and Kakashi were all too familiar with the suffocating killing intent, having endured it for hours. The destruction unfolding before them was inevitable. I don't know, Kakashi admitted, clenching his fists in frustration. I wish I could help him. My body is practically screaming at me to intervene, but I can't. I'd only be a nuisance. Those are two beings fighting over the future of this world, a voice spoke behind them, startling both Kakashi and Sakura. They turned to find an elderly man floating gracefully in the air, his most distinguishing features being the horns atop his head and his piercing purple eyes. The Rinnegan? Who are you? Kakashi demanded, shock flooding his senses. I am Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Your generation knows me as the Sage of Six Paths. The Rikudo Sennin? Kakashi questioned, astonished. Sakura couldn't help but smile mirthlessly. Nothing is going to surprise me anymore. The sage glanced down at Sasuke, a fond smile crossing his lips. It seems Sasuke has changed during this battle, risking everything for Naruto. What do you mean, Rikudo-sama? Kakashi asked, his voice filled with respect. When I met both him and Naruto, I awakened a power that lay dormant within them. The chakra of my two sons, Indra in Sasuke, and Ashura in Naruto. I asked Naruto what he intended to do with that power, and his answer was what I expected. He wanted to protect everyone, didn't he? Kakashi said, an understanding nod accompanying his words. You know him well, Hagoromo replied with a gentle smile. What can I say? Kakashi chuckled softly. He was my student. Hagoromo's gaze shifted to Sasuke's still form, the wound on his chest a grim reminder of his sacrifice. Sasuke, on the other hand, sought to destroy everything. He wanted to erase the concept of shinobi and create a new world in his image, a revolution of sorts. Kakashi looked somberly at Sasuke. Him, I could never understand. Well, seeing as Sasuke protected Naruto at the cost of his own life, something must have shifted in his mindset during this battle. What about Naruto? Kakashi pressed. What will happen to him? Thanks to Sasuke's sacrifice, Naruto now possesses the powers of both Ashura and Indra within him. He is, if not more powerful than me, in this state. Can't you help him? Sakura asked, hope flickering in her eyes. I cannot. I am merely a remnant of my chakra, having traversed through time to witness how the world I and my brother, Hamura, created has evolved. You've just been watching as your legacy was desecrated? Kakashi remarked, disbelief coloring his tone. That was my thought until I met him, Hagoromo mused, a vivid image of Naruto flashing through his mind. Now, my hopes rest on Naruto to restore this world, one where individuals from different backgrounds can unite, understanding each other in harmony and respect. That has always been my goal. Kakashi turned his gaze back to the chaotic battlefield, grim determination etching his features. But Madara aims to destroy all of that. He seeks to plunge the world into a dream state, stripping away their will and hope. Yes, Hagoromo confirmed, his expression grave. As I said, all hopes now rest on Naruto. The shockwave dissipated, leaving a heavy silence as Madara surveyed the aftermath of his relentless almighty push. Hovering in the air, he felt a grim satisfaction wash over him. Below, a vast crater yawned open, far larger than the one created by Naruto's Zenith Rasengan, its depths obscured in darkness and mystery. The landscape lay desecrated, a testament to their titanic struggle. Craters the size of villages punctuated the earth, each a scar left by their overwhelming power. The atmosphere rippled with the remnants of their clash, while the moon hung above, casting a pale light on the chaos below. Dust billowed skyward, swirling like a storm, further obscuring the devastation. Naruto coughed violently, blood splattering against the earth as his vision swayed in and out of focus. His hands trembled, spasms coursing through his body. The familiar chakra cloak that enveloped him flickered like a dying flame, struggling to maintain its form. Gritting his teeth in fierce determination, he fought to regain his composure, straining to peer over the edge of the crater. With a primal roar, he propelled himself upward, blasting out of the abyss and landing with a heavy thud just outside its gaping maw. Madara watched with a mix of amusement and disdain as Naruto's cloak dissipated, his Rinnegan eyes fading, leaving the Uzumaki reliant solely on his sage power. Madara crossed his arms, a condescending smirk curling his lips. You're quite persistent, aren't you? Why do you resist? In the infinite Screamy, there will be no fighting, no wars, just a world where all your dreams come true. So tell me, why are you trying to stop me? Naruto coughed again, his voice strained but resolute. It's just not real. You know that, don't you? Madara's expression shifted slightly, a frown creasing his brow. All your power leads to this in the end, Naruto, he replied, his voice dripping with apathy as he looked down at the defiant shinobi. Thank you for your time, but it's time for you to go. With a swift motion, Madara raised his palm, causing all his truth-seeking balls to merge together, swelling to enormous proportions above him. This is the creation of a new dimension, Naruto. You will be sealed there since you're apparently as powerful as I am. Stop! Stop! Naruto shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Madara merely smirked, retorting, hopeless, aren't you? Dude, I won't let you! Naruto interrupted, his voice rising in fury. With a surge of power, he reactivated his cloak, launching himself toward the colossal sphere of chakra. Drawing on the strength of all the tailed beasts, he began to form a tailed beast Raisen Shuriken, its golden luminescence illuminating the battlefield. Madara's eyes widened in disbelief. You fool! Stop that now! Ignoring Madara's frantic warning, Naruto roared, RRRAGGHHHHHHH. As he hurled the Raisen Shuriken directly at the truth-seeking ball. The collision sparked an explosion that heralded the apocalypse. Meteors rained down from the sky, crashing into the world with devastating force, while oceans surged onto land, transforming the terrain into a chaotic sea. Lightning crackled and danced in the heavens, striking with unrelenting fury. Then, to the shock of both Naruto and Madara, the fabric of space began to warp, creating a massive black hole in the sky. Everything around them was drawn toward the abyss, debris, trees, and even mountains crumbling as they were engulfed by the void. Shit! Naruto grunted, struggling to resist the gravitational pull. He and Madara exchanged desperate glances, both caught in a whirlwind of chaos as they were inexorably pulled into the rift. And just like that, the void snapped shut with a resounding bang, sealing their fates in an instant. "This is bad," Hagoromo muttered, a deep regret lacing his voice. "What is?" Kakashi began to ask, but his question was cut short as tremors rippled through the elemental nations. The ground shook violently, sending a wave of panic through the villages. People stumbled and ran in every direction, their faces etched with fear as earthquakes shattered the calm of their daily lives. Lightning arced across the darkened sky, illuminating the chaos with blinding flashes. Bolts struck down like vengeful gods, obliterating everything in their path. The air crackled with tension, and the scent of scorched earth filled the atmosphere. "What is happening?" Kakashi shouted, deflecting a bolt of lightning with his raikiri, the crackling energy colliding with the ground in a shower of sparks. "The world's power was once controlled by the Shinju," Hagoromo explained urgently, his expression grave. "In simple terms, the Shinju maintained balance in this realm. When we battled its manifestation as the Ten-Tails, I split its power among the 9-tailed beasts. As long as the tailed beasts remained, that balance was preserved. But now everything seems to have collapsed." Sakura's voice trembled with worry. "What do you mean? Where's Naruto?" Hagoromo's gaze darkened. "Naruto and Madara's clash created a void in another dimension. I don't know if they will even survive." Kakashi's breath came in ragged gasps, dizziness washing over him. "I guess I've reached my limit," he admitted, struggling to remain upright. "Kakashi-sensei!" Sakura cried, alarm etched across her features. "What do you suggest we do?" she pressed, her voice rising in desperation as she turned to the Sage of Six Paths, her eyes wide with fear. "Even I don't know what the outcome will be," Hagoromo replied, his tone heavy with uncertainty. "My chakra is beginning to fade. It will take time to manifest again. Until then, your priority is to stay alive." As he spoke, his form began to shimmer and fade, shards of light scattering into the ether. Kakashi's vision blurred as he gazed into the distance, witnessing the catastrophic destruction unfolding around him. The world felt like it was crumbling, and the weight of despair pressed heavily on his chest. "Am I at my limit? Is this the end?" Sakura gritted her teeth, her heart racing with a tumult of emotions. Anguish, fear, and determination warred within her, her fists clenched tightly, drawing blood from her palms, yet she barely noticed the pain. With a fierce cry that echoed through the chaos, she unleashed her anguish to the heavens, her voice carrying the weight of loss. "Naruto!" The sound of her scream pierced the tumult, a poignant reminder of their bond and the stakes of their battle. As the world around her continued to unravel, her resolve solidified. She would fight, she would endure, and she would hold on to hope, even in the face of unimaginable despair. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief as he scanned his surroundings. All he could see was an endless expanse of darkness, punctuated only by trees and rocks disintegrating into nothingness around him. A suffocating pressure weighed down on him in the void, threatening to crush him into oblivion, yet his body instinctively resisted, fueled by sheer determination. As he peered into the black abyss before him, memories of the battle surged through his mind like a torrent. He recalled how he and Sasuke had received their powers from the Sage of Six Paths, each eager to confront Madara and put an end to his reign of terror. After what felt like hours of relentless fighting, Madara had turned his attention toward Kakashi and Sakura, intent on annihilating them. In a moment of swift reflex, Naruto had darted in front of his friends, only to find himself powerless against the massive black spear conjured by Madara's truth-seeking balls. For a fleeting instant, he thought it was all over. Then, out of nowhere, Sasuke had substituted himself for Naruto, taking the fatal blow. The last image etched in Naruto's mind was Sasuke's serene smile, one that betrayed no hint of the sacrifice he was making. Overcome with grief, Naruto turned his gaze toward Madara, the weight of despair heavy on his shoulders. Their battle had culminated in this, being trapped in a void, with no clear path to salvation. Madara met his gaze with palpable disdain. "You see what you have wrought, you fool." "I did what I had to do," Naruto shot back, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Regardless, you will die, Madara." Madara's laughter echoed through the void, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Naruto's spine. "You think it's over? Never. You could never comprehend the intricacies of space-time ninjutsu. What are you talking about?" Alarm crept into Naruto's voice as he braced himself for what was to come. "As one dimension opens, it creates a ripple effect," Madara explained, his tone almost gleeful. "What you did will cause another dimension to open, one with a barrier far weaker than ours. That is the law of the universe. We are two powerful beings. This void cannot contain our might." Naruto's heart raced as a blinding white light appeared in the distance. "No way," he breathed, realization dawning. Madara continued to laugh, the sound dripping with malice. "I don't know where we're headed, but mark my words, I will kill you and seize control of this land, people or not." With a sudden motion, Madara spat and raised his palm, summoning a swirling white vortex before him. Naruto gritted his teeth, channeling Kurama's chakra to create a truth-seeking ball to counter the impending attack. The two forces collided, the air crackling with energy. "No, Naruto!" Kurama's voice rang out, piercing through the chaos. Panic laced his tone, and Naruto's eyes widened in alarm. "What? Tch," Madara scoffed, momentarily distracted. You used the beast's chakra. His surprise was palpable. What? In a shocking turn of events, Madara's body began to swell, his scream of agony filling the void. To Naruto's horror, Madara's form began to latch onto him, an unbearable pain coursing through his veins. What the hell is happening, Kurama? You weren't supposed to use chakra in the void. Kurama shouted back, panic evident in his voice. The void is a place of nothingness. Nothing is meant to exist here. You and Madara have created an anomaly. And now, by activating chakra, you're fusing with him. What are you saying? You are currently merging with Madara. I can't predict who will dominate in the end, but you must escape from here, or you will perish. Whatever you do, head towards that light, now. Naruto grunted, desperately trying to shake off Madara's grasp. Rarg! With a primal roar, Naruto surged forward, channeling a spike of chakra that propelled him toward the portal. He burst through the glowing light, his and Madara's chakra signatures resonating like alarm bells, rippling through the entire land. Trees began to sprout at an astonishing rate, shocking the mages who witnessed the phenomenon. Would magic? Warod thought, alarm etched on his face. With a tremendous shockwave, Naruto, alongside Madara's energy, collided with the earth, shaking it to its very core. A massive dome of chakra radiated from their point of impact, sending nearby mages flying backward as if they were mere leaves caught in a tempest. This power! Laxus growled, straining against the overwhelming pressure, but he was soon sent tumbling as the force of the energy knocked him down, making him kiss the ground multiple times. The wizard saints of Ishgar responded with urgency, placing their palms against the earth. Amaterasu, Formula 90, Eternal Shield. A golden barrier emerged from the ground, creeping up to block the wave of energy surging toward them. As if nature itself reacted to the newfound threat, flaming meteors rained from the sky, plummeting toward Naruto and the mages below, igniting fear in their hearts. What is happening? Mystigan exclaimed in awe, watching the energy wave redirect the meteors, sending them hurtling back toward the mages. Look out! Makarov shouted, panic rising in his chest as Wendy spotted a massive burning rock hurtling towards them at breakneck speed. Gathering her magic, she unleashed her own attack, calling upon the skies. Sky Dragon's Roar! The powerful blast of air collided with the meteor, snuffing out the flames but leaving the rock's momentum intact as it barreled onward. Wendy! Natsu shouted, alarm coursing through him as he turned to see Wendy's terrified expression. Natsu! She cried back, panic evident in her voice. The meteor struck the earth with a thunderous crash, sending shockwaves rippling across the land. The ground trembled violently beneath the mages' feet as they scrambled in chaos. Happy! Carla! Natsu called out, desperation etched into his features. They were knocked out. Gray roared, his eyes darting around frantically. The same goes for Sting and Rogues Exceeds. More meteors began to rain down from the sky, and Sting shouted in a panic, Rouge! Got it! Sting replied, determination igniting in his eyes. In unison, the two dragon slayers entered their dragon drive mode, unleashing a powerful roar. Lights/shadow dragons roar. Torrents of energy erupted from their mouths, colliding with the approaching meteor. A brilliant explosion lit up the sky, reducing the massive rock to harmless debris that scattered across the landscape. Who the hell is doing this? Gijio bellowed, glaring skyward as more debris rained down around him. As the final meteors crashed into the ground, the dome of chakra surrounding Naruto began to recede, revealing the devastation left in its wake. Wendy! Urza thought, a surge of worry propelling her into action. She turned her gaze toward where Naruto had landed, fury igniting in her chest. Without hesitation, she donned her flight armor, soaring towards the figure shrouded in mystery. Hovering above him, she narrowed her eyes, her voice cold and commanding. Who are you? Naruto remained unresponsive, his right hand moving slowly to his face, his body blurring momentarily. If you won't answer me, I'll make you. Urza growled, her magic flaring to life. The intensity of her aura caused Naruto to twitch slightly, a hint of recognition breaking through his stoic demeanor. You dare come to my world and attack us? You dare! With a speed that only seasoned fighters could track, Urza descended towards Naruto, determination etched into her features. Urza, don't! Makarov shouted, alarm resonating in his voice. Natsu, fueled by adrenaline and rage, propelled himself into the air, flames trailing behind him. Natsu! Makarov yelled in shock, watching the reckless move unfold. These kids! Urza reached Naruto, her blade poised for a strike, but her eyes widened in horror as Naruto's hand passed cleanly through her heart. Squelch! An oppressive silence fell over the battlefield as every mage stared in disbelief. Urza! Natsu's anguished roar shattered the stillness, and he lunged forward, but Makarov caught him, yanking him away just as he was about to reach the fallen warrior. Natsu, stop! Think! Makarov commanded, his voice firm. He stabbed Urza. What are you waiting for? Natsu spat, anger boiling over. Just calm down. Makarov insisted, his gaze shifting to Warod, who was already preparing to act. I'm on it. Warod replied, his expression steely as the ground beneath them began to tremble again. Urza landed on her feet, stunned, her eyes fixed on the hand protruding from her chest. With a strained, bloodied whisper, Naruto's voice cut through the tension. "You dare lay your hand on a god, woman?" Urza's gaze flickered to him, her determination unwavering despite the blood trickling from her lips. "You bastard!" As her strength waned, her vision blurred, and she slowly crumpled to the ground, raising a small cloud of dust. Above her, Naruto absorbed the energy flooding from the environment into his palm. "Would release?" he mused, a chuckle escaping his lips. "This world is already interesting. Wait, it would release, but from a different energy source. Fascinating. Now Hyperion!" Warod commanded, rallying the mages as tension hung thick in the air. Before anything further could transpire, Naruto raised his palm, his voice laced with authority. "I don't have time to dance right now. I have an unwilling host, but allow me to give you a taste of true power." With the Rinnegan activated, he declared, "Divine Art, Almighty Push." A colossal force erupted from his palm, far surpassing the destructive wave unleashed on Konoha by Pain. Every mage was sent hurling backward, the shockwave carving a massive crater into the earth, leaving the capital of Fiori, Crocus, irrevocably scarred. And Mercurius, the king of Fiori, watched the devastation unfold, eyes wide with shock. "What the hell is happening?" he muttered, fear creeping into his voice. Naruto lowered his palm, observing Urza's still form on the ground. "Red, huh? This should be amusing." Fire dragon's roar. Veins bulging on his forehead, Natsu unleashed a torrent of flames toward Naruto, the blast creating a massive dome of fire that engulfed the area, obscuring Naruto from view. As the firestorm roared around him, Naruto absorbed the flames into his palm, laughter escaping him. An even more interesting source of magic, different from that old man's, indeed. Grinning with taunting delight, he challenged Natsu. "You don't care for your comrade's life enough to hesitate." "How amusing! Shut the hell up!" Natsu roared, flames engulfing him as he tapped into his dragon force. Naruto's curiosity piqued, a smile gracing his features. "Interesting? But I have no time to play with you." "Roararg!" Natsu lunged forward, his fist aimed at Naruto's head, but suddenly, he found himself frozen mid-attack, suspended in mid-air. What? It's not enough. Something is holding your true power back from being unleashed. I would love to fight you when you attain that power, but for now, all you need to do is one simple thing. Naruto's voice dripped with authority as he revealed his two red Manjiki Sharingan, captivating Natsu's gaze. "Fear, Tsukuyami." Natsu's expression shifted from shock to confusion, engulfed by a wave of terror that clouded his mind. He dropped to the ground, helpless, staring into the abyss of Naruto's eyes. "What?" he stammered, unable to move a muscle as incoherent words spilled from his lips. "When you find me, come with that power of yours. Avenge your comrade." In an instant, a gust of wind swept through Crocus, and Naruto vanished, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Natsu remained frozen, shock etched on his face, oblivious to the fact that where Urza once lay, now there was only emptiness. Makarov's vision blurred as he staggered to his feet, coughing violently, dust swirling in the air. He was soon joined by the three guardians of Ishgar, who emerged from the rubble, their expressions a mix of disbelief and rage. "How dare he? He came into our world and did this." Wolfheim snarled, his fists clenched tightly. "Calm down, Wolfheim," Hyperion replied, his voice calm but stern. "Makarov, it seems we have an enemy who has infiltrated us rather boldly." "Not only that," Makarov said, his voice low and dangerous, fists clenching tightly. "He has one of my children." Makarov turned sharply at the source of the anguished cry, eyes wide with alarm. "Natsu!" Wendy blinked as she found herself in the guild hall, disoriented. "Why? I thought I was going to." "I saved you," a voice interrupted. She turned to find Mess, panting and smiling, though his vision was clouded. "Mess-san!" Wendy exclaimed, her worry returning. "Where are the others?" "I teleported most of them to safety." As she surveyed the guild, her heart sank. Many members lay unconscious, mages from different guilds scattered across the once bustling fairy tale bar. "They will wake up soon. Until then, let me sleep," Mess said, his body sagging as he succumbed to unconsciousness. Wendy steeled herself, determination flooding her veins. "It's time to get to work." Altair glanced around, her heart racing as darkness enveloped her. "Where am I?" she called out, her voice echoing eerily in the void. "Altair Milkovich, daughter of Uar Milkovich," a voice echoed back, smooth yet menacing. "An agent for the Dark Guild Grimoire Heart. The woman who turned back time to save this world, huh? Interesting though at a cost." A figure emerged from the shadows, revealing Naruto. Altair's breath itched, fear tightening her chest. "You're him, the intruder." "What do you want?" "Simple your cooperation," he replied, a hint of amusement in his tone. With a deliberate motion, Naruto extended his right palm, bearing a sun mark, and placed it gently on her forehead. Instantly, Altair felt a strange energy coursing through her. To her astonishment, she watched as her surroundings faded, and her youthful self appeared before her, vibrant and full of life. "Who are you?" she asked, awe mixed with apprehension in her voice. "I believe I have your attention now," Naruto said, a sly grin forming on his lips. I am someone who can take any shape, be anywhere at any moment. You wouldn't know when I'd be beside you, behind you. He leaned closer, his breath a whisper in her ear. Or right in front of you. As he retreated, Altair gasped in disbelief, watching him morph into an exact replica of herself. The transformation was flawless, every detail meticulously copied. She stared in wonder, her heart pounding in her chest. Naruto dispelled the illusion, his voice steady as he continued, all I need is valuable information. For some reason, your memory seems surface level. Perhaps my control over these powers is still growing. The merging is inhibiting my mastery, huh? He paused, his gaze sharpening. You'll be briefed later. But for now, sleep. Your purpose in my new world will come soon enough. Despite her protests, Altair felt an overwhelming heaviness pull at her consciousness. Sleep overtook her against her will, the darkness wrapping around her like a shroud. Naruto closed his eyes as well, retreating into his mindscape, the weight of his plan settling over him like a cloak. The village of Konoha sprawled beneath a brilliant blue sky as Naruto made his way to the Hokage statues. The sun cast long shadows over the stone faces, yet Naruto's frown darkened the scene further. Ahead of him stood Madara, a smug smile plastered across his face. You had to spoil my fun, didn't you? Madara taunted, his voice dripping with arrogance. Madara, Naruto replied, his eyes narrowing into slits as he clenched his fists, frustration bubbling within him. The sight of the Uchiha's self-satisfied expression ignited a fierce determination. Madara chuckled, leaning back with an air of nonchalance. Just know that you cannot get rid of me. One day, I will regain control. What you witnessed was merely a glimpse of my plans for this ripe land. Nothing will stand in my way. With that, he vanished into the air, the final whisper of his voice echoing in the stillness. Nothing. The scene shifted to the serene valley of the end, where Naruto perched atop Kurama's massive snout. The expansive sky above was a tranquil blue, a stark contrast to the turmoil within Naruto's heart. So, you and Madara are now one, huh? Kurama's deep voice rumbled, breaking the silence. Yeah, Naruto sighed, gazing at the horizon. Kurama, he killed someone with my hands. Someone who was just protecting her home, and the funny thing is I hardly feel anything at all. I'm worried I'm becoming him. A heavy silence settled between them, the weight of Naruto's words palpable. Kurama shifted slightly, his tone serious. Do you understand why Madara took her with him? Naruto frowned, the implication sinking in. Probably to turn her into one of his puppets. Well, do what you must. You possess the Rinnegan now, after all. And Naruto, Kurama's voice took on an edge of urgency. Be careful. Always stay on guard. Madara has made you the target of this world. You may have to get your hands dirty this time. Naruto chuckled mirthlessly, a bitter edge to his voice. I doubt I'll have many problems. My thoughts have melded with Madara's. I wouldn't even know which is mine anymore. I thought I could attempt a peaceful resolution, but honestly I'm just tired of war. Good. Now let's begin by bringing her back, Kurama replied, his tone resolute. I don't know the outer path's techniques, Naruto admitted, frustration creeping into his voice. I stupidly wasn't paying attention when Nagato used it. Then do the next best thing, for now, Kurama instructed, his voice steady. Of course, Naruto responded, determination flaring within him. With Kurama's guidance echoing in his mind, Naruto approached Altair's prison. He walked deliberately to a flat table, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the eerie silence. There, he found Urza's unmoving body, adorned with black spikes and enveloped in a shimmering white energy. A sudden rush of urgency surged through him as the energy sank into her form, revealing a steady, rhythmic heartbeat. Show me the world through your eyes, Naruto murmured, a grim smile creeping across his face. Awaken Devapath. As if responding to his command, Urza's eyes fluttered open. Instead of the heterochromatic gaze he expected, they glimmered with a blood-red Rinnegan, strikingly similar to Naruto's own. Chapter 2, Advent. Naruto and Sasuke stood panting amidst the debris of a battlefield torn asunder. Their eyes were locked on Uchiha Obito, who lay slumped against a jagged, blood-soaked rock, its sharp edges likely the result of a fierce elemental jutsu. A deep, life-threatening slash cut across his chest, blood pooling beneath him, while his face was frozen in shock and disbelief. Naruto's red cloak, now shredded and stained with dirt and blood, hung loosely over his flak jacket. He was visibly drained, his breathing ragged, yet his focus remained sharp. Sasuke, still dressed in the dark robes of the Akatsuki, clutched his bloodied sword. The blade dripped with fresh crimson as Sasuke struggled to stay upright, his vision swimming from exhaustion and overexertion. The strain of the battle weighed heavily on him, his body swaying precariously. Just as Sasuke's knees buckled, Naruto caught him, steadying his former rival. Easy, take it slow, Naruto said softly, his voice carrying both exhaustion and concern as he offered his shoulder for support. Sasuke leaned against him, breathing hard. We got him, he rasped. That's what matters. Naruto nodded, casting a quick glance at Sasuke's bloodshot, still bleeding eye. You've overdone it with the Sharingan again. You need to stop pushing yourself like that. He sighed, kneeling down and helping Sasuke sit against the bloodied rock. I've already activated the medic seal. Sakura and Ino are on their way. Just rest for now. Sasuke wiped the blood from his eye, grimacing as he did. If I hadn't pushed myself, we wouldn't have taken him down in time, he muttered, his pride refusing to allow any sign of weakness. Naruto chuckled wearily, lowering himself onto the ground on the other side of Obito's lifeless form. And here I thought I was supposed to be the reckless one. A tense silence followed, the only sound being the distant rumble of destruction in the distance. Both Naruto and Sasuke, despite their exhaustion, knew they had no time to relax. They still needed to retreat, rest, and strategize their next move. But first, they had to deal with Obito. Unfinished business loomed over them like the aftermath of the battle. Obito coughed violently, a fresh stream of blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. He weakly attempted to rise, his fingers clawing at the dirt, but something held him down. His eyes widened in panic as he noticed the black runic symbols etched into his skin, rooting him to the ground. Noticing Obito's reaction, Naruto let out a dry, tired laugh. Yeah, we sealed you. No more of your teleportation tricks this time. Obito's expression darkened, and with whatever strength he had left, he turned his gaze to Sasuke. His voice was a rasping accusation, drenched in bitterness. You traitor. Sasuke didn't even glance at him, his eyes remaining fixed on the stormy sky above. His voice was low, cold, and detached. I betrayed you from the very beginning. It was never real. Obito's face twisted with confusion, anger sparking in his darkened eyes. What? He managed to gasp, the realization beginning to dawn on him. Sasuke's tone was as cutting as the blade that had spilled Obito's blood. My brother joined the Akatsuki to protect Konoha. You thought you could manipulate me by using his death, but you were wrong. I just played along, waiting for the right moment. Obito's breath came in labored gasps as he processed Sasuke's words. His voice was filled with disbelief, his strength fading fast. Then why didn't you kill me? Naruto's expression softened as he watched Obito, a trace of sympathy flickering in his blue eyes. Because we need information, he replied, his voice steady. Someone's on their way to extract it. Once we have what we need, well then you'll get your wish. There was a pause as Naruto's gaze shifted downward, his voice growing quieter, laden with a mix of regret and frustration. I used to think there was hope for you, you know? Even after everything, I believed you could be redeemed. But you chose this path. You chose war. And in doing so, you cost countless lives, people I cared about. His voice wavered for a moment, but then he straightened, his tone resolute. I'm angry, Obito. But part of me can't help but feel sorry for you. You were lost a long time ago. Sasuke, who had remained silent up until now, finally glanced at Naruto. He could hear the pain in his comrade's voice, a quiet conflict that had been building ever since the war began. Even though their battle with Obito was over, the emotional wounds ran deeper than the physical ones. Naruto's expression hardened, his voice growing firm as he addressed Obito one last time. Say goodbye, Uchiha Obito. You've caused enough suffering. Obito's breath was shallow, each gasp weaker than the last. His life was slipping away, the weight of his choices, his betrayals, and his regrets pressing down on him. He looked up at the two shinobi standing over him, knowing that his time was almost at an end. For a moment, the battlefield was eerily quiet, as though the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable end. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged a glance, both understanding what had to come next. Obito's labored breathing filled the silence, the remnants of his once great power reduced to nothing more than the fleeting moments of a fading life. He had lost the war, lost his ideals, lost the people he had sought to control. As the weight of his actions crushed him, he could see the futility of it all. And there, in the silence, his story came to its close. Flaming meteors rained down upon the elemental nations, tearing through the landscape with unrelenting fury. The once clear skies had turned a foreboding shade of red, casting an ominous glow over the devastation below. The land itself seemed to scream as the impact of each meteor shook the earth, sending shockwaves that reverberated for miles. Forests ignited into fiery infernos, while towering mountains crumbled and spewed molten lava, reshaping the world in violent, destructive waves. The air was thick with the scent of ash and despair. Amidst the chaos, a heart-wrenching scream pierced the heavens. Naruto! Sakura's voice, raw with anguish, echoed from atop a shattered mountain. She stood, trembling, as the figure of the Sage of Six Paths vanished into the fiery apocalypse. At her feet lay Sasuke, lifeless, his body motionless. Nearby, Kakashi remained unconscious, barely clinging to life. Her heart ached with overwhelming loss, and she collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face, as she was consumed by the weight of it all. Move! The word escaped her lips as a whisper, a futile plea to her own body. Move! But nothing happened. Sakura remained frozen, her spirit crushed under the enormity of her grief. What was there left to fight for? The battle was over, and they had lost. The infinite Tsukuyomi had not been activated, but the cost was catastrophic. Everything was gone. Everyone was gone. She had always been left behind, watching helplessly as those she cared about sacrificed themselves, one after another. The elemental forces around her, now unrestrained, continued to reshape the world into something unrecognizable. Through tear-filled eyes, Sakura looked out over the ruined landscape. The land itself seemed to be tearing apart, struggling to stabilize after the catastrophic loss of balance. She knew it wasn't just physical devastation, it felt as if the soul of the world had been fractured. As she stared blankly at the sky, a massive flaming meteor descended, hurling toward her. Gravity hastened its deadly approach, and Sakura watched it, feeling a grim sense of release. It was coming to end everything, the pain, the heartache, the burden of survival. The wind carried a haunting stillness, the calm before the final blow. Sakura closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek, and she smiled bitterly. I'll join them. Maybe then I won't be so alone anymore. But then, a memory flashed before her eyes, Naruto. In her mind's eye, she saw Naruto standing before her, his ever-present grin lighting up his face. The sun was setting behind him, casting warm hues across the sky. As Sakura? He stammered, surprised to see her. She crossed her arms, her face flushed with anger. What are you thinking, Naruto? Naruto's grin faltered. You heard, huh? Of course I heard. Why are you doing this? Why are you always planning something reckless without thinking? You and Sasuke never listen. Do you have any idea how much I've lost already? Why are you both leaving me behind again? Naruto's expression turned serious as he met her gaze. I'm the Hokage now, Sakura. I know what that means. I knew the sacrifices I'd have to make. If it comes down to it, I'll give anything to save this world, even my life. Why you? Sakura shouted, her voice cracking. Why does it always have to be you? Madara took everything from me, my parents, my sensei, everything. Why do you and Sasuke insist on facing him alone? Why do you think it's your burden to carry? Naruto's smile returned, though it was softer this time, tinged with sadness. Because only we can. Only Sasuke and I can stand against Madara as he is now. It's our fight. If we don't fight, who will? Even if everything seems lost, I'll keep going. I'll prove that this world isn't a failure. Sakura's anger melted into despair as she looked into Naruto's determined eyes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Do you really intend to die with him, Naruto? You've lost so much, but there are still people who need you. People who care about you. People who call you friend. Come back to us. Come back to the village. Naruto chuckled, his blue eyes shining with warmth. I don't plan on dying, Sakura. But if it happens, it'll be because I'm protecting all of you. So, promise me something live for me, Sakura. Someone has to tell everyone about the great Uzumaki Naruto, right? That infectious grin of his, the one that never failed to ease her heart, appeared once again. Sakura sighed, reluctantly giving in. Fine, she had whispered. Back in the present, Sakura's eyes snapped open as the memory faded. Rain began to fall, soaking the ground around her as the meteor loomed ever closer. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. Naruto wouldn't want this. He wouldn't want her to give up, not now, not ever. Do you really expect me to live in this broken world, Naruto? She muttered under her breath. Or what's left of it? Taking a deep breath, Sakura stood, her expression determined. She let the pain wash over her, embracing it as fuel for what she needed to do next. A fierce green chakra aura flared to life around her, the signature power of the strength of 100 technique. With a defiant roar, she launched herself into the air, directly toward the meteor. Reag, her fists, glowing with enhanced strength and lined with the purple markings of her technique, collided with the meteor. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop as the massive rock cracked, then shattered into countless pieces, disintegrating under the force of her punch. The debris scattered into the rain-soaked sky as Sakura landed on the ground, her knees bent, drenched but standing tall. She looked up at the dissipating fragments in the sky, the rain still falling around her. I'll be here, Naruto, she whispered, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I'll wait until you come back. But even as the words left her lips, the mountain beneath her feet began to tremble. Cracks splintered across the ground, and before she could react, the earth gave way. Sakura's eyes widened in shock as she, along with the bodies of Sasuke and Kakashi, tumbled into the dark, collapsing crevice. Is this how it ends? And then, there was only darkness. Naruto stood deep within his mindscape, overlooking a vision of Konoha from atop the Hokage's stone faces. The village, serene and peaceful, was a figment of his imagination, brought to life within the recesses of his subconscious. His expression was heavy with contemplation as he stared down at the imaginary streets below, the weight of countless battles pressing on his shoulders. He spoke softly, his words barely more than a whisper to the winds that didn't exist. Tell me, why did you really want to trap the world in an infinite dream? The voice of Uchiha Madara emerged from the shadows of Naruto's mind, a wisp of chakra coalescing beside him. Madara's lips curled into an amused smirk, his dark eyes glinting with arrogance. It's unlike you to initiate a conversation with me, Naruto, he mused. Are you finally ready to give in? Naruto didn't look at him, his gaze still fixed on the village below. I just want to understand you, he murmured. Our bodies are fused, and our minds soon there'll be no difference between Uchiha Madara and Uzumaki Naruto. I'm trying, as hard as I can, not to become like you. Madara chuckled dismissively. Then why waste your time trying to understand me? It's pointless. Naruto's brow furrowed slightly, and he gestured toward the village below them. What confuses me is this, he said, his voice stronger. This place. This is your mindscape. It's not chaos or destruction, It's the same village you and the first Hokage once dreamed of, a symbol of the peace you wanted. So why would you, of all people, try to destroy everything? Why turn against the very dream you built with Hashirama? For a moment, Madara's gaze softened, a flicker of nostalgia crossing his features as he looked out at the village. His voice, when it came, was uncharacteristically quiet. Look closer, Naruto, he said, his tone almost wistful. What do you see? Naruto hesitated, glancing back down at the village. The village, he said uncertainly. Look deeper, Madara urged. Naruto fell silent, his mind turning over Madara's words. Then, realization dawned on him, and his eyes widened. Peace, he whispered. Madara nodded slowly. Exactly. The elemental nations failed. They broke the peace we tried to create, and they did it over and over again. So I set out to reset it. Naruto turned to face Madara, searching for something in his words. But if peace was what you wanted, why did you start a war? Why cause so much suffering? Madara's chuckle was cold, indifferent. Did I, Naruto? He raised an eyebrow at the confusion on Naruto's face. Or did you? Naruto's eyes widened in shock. What are you talking about? That's not true. Madara folded his arms, a look of amusement dancing across his features. Think about it. When we clashed in the void, our final battle wasn't just physical, it was a battle of wills. We fused, and in the end you won. But by winning, you didn't just defeat me, you absorbed me, my power, my memories, my mindset. That's why you can access this place, the core of my mind buried deep within yours. Naruto shook his head in disbelief. No, that's impossible. Madara shrugged nonchalantly. You can deny it all you want, but it's the truth. The moment you landed in that battle, surrounded by conflict, my thoughts began to influence yours. You may not have noticed, but I was there, guiding you. You took actions that even you don't understand. Naruto clenched his fists, his face twisted in anger. I would never destroy a village. That's not who I am. Madara's expression grew somber. No, it isn't. But that's who I am, and now, a part of that is inside you. If our battle had gone the other way, it would be my body walking the earth right now, not yours. Naruto stood frozen, the weight of Madara's words sinking in. He looked down at his palm, as though trying to make sense of the power coursing through him. You're still fighting it, Madara said, his voice quieter now. You don't want to admit that you're not the same person you were before. The peace you fought for, it's fragile, it always has been. True peace, the only real peace, can only exist in the infinite dream. Naruto's fists tightened at his sides, his voice shaking with anger and frustration. No! That wasn't me. You were the one who did all of this. Madara tilted his head, almost as if humoring Naruto's denial. If I had the power to take over your mind, don't you think I would have done it already? You're asleep now, vulnerable. Yet here we are, having a conversation instead. Naruto's breath hitched as the realization of Madara's restraint dawned on him. They see me as a monster, he whispered, his voice laced with guilt. Madara chuckled, his tone dark and mocking. A monster? No, Naruto. A monster is merely a god in the eyes of those who fear it. Think back to your childhood. Why did the people of Konoha fear you? Was it because you housed the Nine Tails? No, it was because, in their eyes, you held the power of a god, a being capable of leveling mountains and creating tsunamis with a roar. They couldn't comprehend it, so they labeled you a monster. Naruto's face contorted with pain, the memories of his past flashing through his mind. Madara's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. Now that you have the strength to control that power, the world fears you even more. The truth is, only a few of us, those who truly understand power, can see beyond the fear. The rest will always see you as something to be feared, something dangerous. Like me? Naruto gritted his teeth, his voice low and filled with defiance. What's your point, Madara? Madara smirked, his eyes gleaming with mischief. You should seek out Zirif. Naruto's eyes narrowed in suspicion. You know about him? Of course, Madara said smoothly. I know everything that happens in your world now. From the memories of that woman Milkovich, this Zirif, he might be someone who understands you. You could ally with him, or, if you prefer, battle him to the death. I find that option more entertaining, personally. Do you think he can dance? Naruto shook his head, disgusted. You're insane, Madara laughed. Perhaps. But being caged here will do that to anyone. I have to make my own fun. Naruto turned to leave, but Madara's voice stopped him. You want to bring that girl back from the dead, don't you? You still have a lot to learn, and I can help you with that. Madara's eyes glinted with a strange kind of amusement. I can adjust my memories, so you'll have everything you need. Naruto scoffed, laughing bitterly. Uchiha Madara as my sensei? Why would you help me? Madara smiled. Because I am you, Naruto. You are a reflection of me, just as I am of you. We're two sides of the same coin, and that coin, no one can destroy it. He paused, his smirk widening. Besides, I'm bored. And watching a world molded by your hands through my influence, well, that could be very entertaining. Naruto's fist clenched, anger flaring in his eyes. I am not you, Madara's voice dripped with confidence. Oh, but you will be. You just haven't realized it yet. The outcome depends entirely on you. So, will you accept responsibility, Naruto? Or will you keep hiding behind that false facade, pretending you're something you're not? Are you ready to embrace your true self and reach heights beyond any shinobi, or will you keep resisting? Naruto stood frozen, conflict raging in his heart as he stared at Madara, who now sat down calmly, looking out over the village. Until next time, Uzumaki, Madara said softly, a knowing smile playing on his lips. A humble home stood nestled deep within the forest, its structure woven seamlessly from the surrounding trees, a tribute to Yamato's teachings. This simple abode was born of necessity, a small, self-contained apartment, furnished with basic supplies that Naruto had sealed into scrolls during the long years of war. He paused, reflecting on the passage of time. How old was he now? 25, maybe? The war had stretched on for nearly 9 years. They had come so close to defeating Uchiha Madara, on the verge of securing peace for the elemental nations. At least, that's what it had seemed like, before everything changed. Naruto sighed heavily, hoping that somewhere, his friends were doing well. He had tried every dimensional technique at his disposal, even attempted summoning, but all his efforts had failed. From his deductions, it seemed the energy required to replicate the immense power of his final battle with Madara was impossible to generate in this world. That fight, the clash that had fused their beings, was on a scale that could not be repeated. And now, he was stuck here, alone. Perhaps finding this Zerif was his next course of action. Naruto's gaze wandered to the mirror hanging on the wall. His own reflection stared back at him, spiky blonde hair dulled by exhaustion, and eyes once vibrant blue now edged with shadows of weariness. His gaze drifted to his palm, where he held his forehead protector, the one given to him by Iruka-sensei, the first person to believe in him. He had once believed that he could do anything, that he could reach the top, and he had. He had become the 6th Hokage, shouldering the hopes of an entire world. It had needed him, and he had stepped up to meet its demands. But in doing so, he had lost so much: comrades, friends, pieces of himself. There had been moments where he wanted to quit, to abandon it all, but his friends had always pulled him back from the brink. A small smile tugged at his lips as memories of his friends resurfaced. But the warmth of those memories quickly faded. Obito, Madara, they had taken so much from him. Too many of those bonds had been severed. You were too trusting, Kakashi had once told him. He chuckled bitterly at his reflection. Look at you now, Uzumaki Naruto. You really are pathetic. The Rinnegan in his right eye flared to life, the memory of the outer path flooding his mind. His expression darkened. Madara's influence had left its mark. He could still feel it, when the rage consumed him, when he killed Urza. That cold, hollow feeling had taken over, pushing him beyond himself. He had unleashed the almighty push, feeling nothing as he watched lives crumble before him. And the worst part? In that moment, it had felt exhilarating. Watching the people shrink away in fear, seeing them cower before his power, it disturbed him to realize how close he had come to becoming Madara. His eyes widened in sudden horror. Was that his future? Was he destined to follow Madara's path? No! Naruto roared, his fist smashing into the mirror, sending cracks spiderwebbing across its surface. He stared at the fractured reflection, panting as he struggled to regain control. He couldn't afford to lose focus. Not now. Descending into the basement, Naruto passed the walls of the home he had constructed using his yin-yang release. It wasn't extravagant. Power had never made him crave luxury. He had come from humble beginnings, and he intended to remember that. The simplicity kept him grounded, kept him from becoming the man he despised. But as he reached the bottom of the stairs, he realized just how thin the line was between him and Madara. A single misstep, and he would fall into the abyss. There, lying before him, was Urza's body. He approached her with a somber expression. Her memories, along with Altair's, still echoed in his mind. They had suffered, just as he had, victims of a world that claimed to strive for peace but had never known its true meaning. It was a harsh, painful truth. No matter how peaceful a society might appear, suffering always lurked beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. He had kept her alive for a while, using her as a deva path, though he wasn't fond of using the 6 paths technique. It felt too restrictive, too much like Madara's way of thinking. But now, it was time. With a deep breath, Naruto summoned the King of Hell, the massive, imposing figure filling the room with a purple glow. Its mouth opened, and a green aura shot out, flooding Urza's lifeless body. The black chakra rods that had pierced her skin dissolved into ash as the glow around her faded. For a moment, her body remained still. Was it too late? Suddenly, her chest heaved. Urza gasped, coughing violently as she bolted upright, her eyes wide in shock. Naruto watched silently as she struggled to catch her breath, panic written across her face. Is she dead? He wondered briefly, before the color returned to her cheeks and her breathing began to steady. She hadn't even noticed him yet. Her fear was so overwhelming, she couldn't register his presence. Naruto unsealed a cloak and stepped forward, tapping her shoulder gently. She flinched, turning with wild eyes. Here, Naruto said softly, handing her the cloak. Welcome back to the land of the living, Urza. Her eyes widened as recognition hit her. She scrambled back, fear flashing across her face. Why you? She gasped, coughing again. Naruto watched her calmly, letting her adjust to the shock of being alive once more. She stared at him, terror still clouding her features, but he could see the questions forming behind her fear. You need answers, Naruto began, his voice gentle. But first, you need to put something on. Urza trembled, her voice barely a whisper. It was dark, she said, her eyes haunted. I was alone. Surrounded by fear. Where did you send me? Naruto met her gaze. You died, Urza. Her eyes widened further. What? She paused, piecing together the fragmented memories. I remember. You killed me. I was dead. How? Something I can do, Naruto replied, his voice heavy with regret. I brought you back because you didn't deserve it. What happened to you, the pain you endured, it wasn't fair. I wasn't myself. Who are you? She asked, her voice shaking. Naruto gave a bitter smile. Someone who's not supposed to be here. He offered the cloak again, and this time, she accepted, wrapping it around herself with trembling hands. She looked lost, her emotions in turmoil. Anger, fear, confusion, they warred within her, threatening to overwhelm her. I had a friend, she said softly, her voice cracking. Wendy. She was so young, Naruto's jaw tightened. He had seen Wendy's face in Urza's memories. He knew the pain she spoke of all too well. Why did you come here? She asked, her voice rising with anger. We were at peace. Why did you bring this destruction to our world? Naruto met her gaze, his eyes filled with remorse. I wasn't in control of things, he admitted. I wish I could give you a better answer, but right now, all I can say is that I'm leaving. I don't belong here, and I need to find out where I do. Urza's eyes filled with tears. Can't you bring her back? Wendy, please. Naruto shook his head slowly. It's too late for that. There's a limit to what I can do, and she's been gone too long. But you brought me back, she cried, desperation in her voice. You were different, Naruto said softly. I kept you tethered, kept your body alive through unorthodox means. Wendy, she's truly gone. Urza stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Why would you do this? She whispered, her voice broken. My friends, my comrades, why? Naruto closed his eyes, Madara's words echoing in his mind. You are a reflection of me, and I of you. Two sides of the same coin. Whether you accept it or not, you're destined to become like me. He opened his eyes, meeting Urza's gaze. Blame me, he said quietly. For everything. I accept it, it's my fault. She looked at him, uncertain, her hatred warring with her confusion. You probably hate me right now, Naruto continued with a sad smile. And I don't blame you. Sometimes, I don't even know who I am anymore. He took a step toward her but stopped when he saw the fear in her eyes. I won't hurt you again, Urza, he assured her, his voice gentle, radiating a warmth she hadn't expected. Urza blinked, taken aback by the sincerity in his words. This was not the man who had killed her, not the man who had unleashed such devastation. There was a softness in his eyes now, a depth of regret that tugged at something inside her. She placed a hand over her chest, remembering the place where his blade had pierced her. There was no scar, but the pain was still there, a phantom reminder that she had died. The darkness she had experienced was unlike anything she could describe. In that void, she had lost all sense of self, all connection to who she was. Naruto's hand rested gently on her shoulder, pulling her from the darkness of her thoughts. He sat beside her, his presence strangely comforting. I've died before, he said quietly, his voice filled with sorrow. Someone very close to me gave her life to save mine. I'll never be able to repay that debt. I often wonder why my life was worth saving over someone else's. Urza looked at him, her own anger and confusion fading as she saw the weight of the burdens he carried. He was exhausted, fighting a battle that seemed endless. I know how you feel, Naruto continued, his eyes meeting hers with an unexpected intensity. Even if you don't remember any of this in the future, I want you to know that I'm sorry. Before Urza could respond, the world around her faded to black. Naruto stood outside, just beyond the edges of the forest, his eyes closed as he let the tranquil atmosphere wash over him. The air was fresh, untainted by the weight of constant battle or the bitterness of suffering that he had grown so accustomed to in his own world. Here, there was an almost palpable serenity, an absence of the negative emotions that had once filled the spaces between people back home. Fear, hatred, and anger seemed like distant memories in this new place. One of the few things Naruto truly appreciated about this world was that the emotional turbulence he could sense, even without Kurama, was nearly non-existent. He had learned to read the tension in the air back in the shinobi world, where conflict was a constant presence, but here, it was different. The peacefulness in this world felt genuine. Nature itself seemed to be at ease, as if the trees, the sky, and the wind had never known war. It was a kind of peace Naruto had once longed for but never truly experienced. He opened his eyes, gazing up at the vast expanse of the sky, painted with soft hues as the day began to fade. A smile tugged at his lips. This was peace, in its truest form. Breaking the silence, Naruto spoke, his tone light but carrying the weight of deeper thoughts. You know, he mused aloud, I was planning to come find you. Funny how things work out, Azirith? Behind him, revealed by Naruto's quiet acknowledgement, stood the dark mage, Zirith. His expression was cautious, eyes narrowed in suspicion as he studied the blonde ninja. The frown on Ziraf's face deepened, uncertainty flickering behind his cold gaze. Who are you exactly? Ziraf asked, his voice low and filled with an unmistakable edge. Chapter 3. The Guardian's Haven. The Fairy Tale Guild was shrouded in an atmosphere of deep dejection, a heavy pall hanging over the hall like a storm cloud. The recent losses had stripped the guild of its usual vibrancy. The members were unable to focus, each lost in their own grief, their spirits weighed down by sorrow. They mourned Urza Scarlet, one of the strongest mages the guild had ever known. Her absence was a gaping wound, a loss that reverberated through the hearts of every member. Lucy Hartfilia glanced at Happy, who sat beside her, his small body hunched over in sadness, his normally cheerful demeanor extinguished. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Where's Natsu?" "He's out of the guild for now," Happy replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "He doesn't want to be near anyone." "That dumb idiot," Grey Fullbuster muttered from his spot beside her, his tone laced with frustration. "How could he abandon us when we need each other the most?" "Master is probably at a guild meeting, dealing with the fallout from what happened." Lucy's heart sank further at the mention of Master Makarov's absence. The guild was adrift without their leader, and the weight of their collective grief pressed down on her shoulders. Mary Jane, noticing Lucy's downcast expression, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's so sad, isn't it?" she said softly. "Sad?" Grey interrupted, his voice rising as he felt the anger bubbling to the surface. He turned to face the guild, capturing everyone's attention. "I'm not sad, I'm furious. She was your best friend, Mira." His outburst was fueled by a mix of grief and frustration, directed at Mary Jane, whose face twisted in pain. "Don't you feel any rage over what that bastard did?" Kana Alberona, sitting at her usual table, clenched her fist, her own anger simmering beneath the surface. "And what do you want to do?" she shot back. "We're all angry, we all feel the same way. She was our friend." Gray's frustration boiled over. "I want to find him. I want to make him pay for what he did." His voice echoed through the guild hall, raw with emotion. Suddenly, Mary Jane's palm connected sharply with Gray's cheek, leaving him and Lucy stunned into silence. "And then what?" she asked, her tone fierce and unwavering. "You died because you were foolish enough to seek revenge?" Gray started to protest, but Mary Jane cut him off. "Do you want to throw your life away because of Urza? Do you want to tarnish her memory, the bond we all shared?" Her voice was a mix of anger and desperation, her blue eyes blazing with intensity. Wendy Marvel, who had been sitting quietly nearby, looked down in self-rebuke, tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispered, "I'm sorry." Her heartfelt words drew concerned expressions from nearby guild members, all of whom could hear her soft lament. Gray blinked in surprise and turned towards her. "Sorry? For what?" "If only I had known that mess had saved me," Wendy said, her gaze fixed on the ground, unable to meet their eyes. She clenched her fists, overwhelmed by the pain coursing through her. Tears dripped onto the floor, a reflection of her guilt. "If she had known I was safe, maybe it wouldn't have happened." Gray's expression shifted, eyes widening in shock. Lucy quickly moved to wrap her arms around Wendy, pulling her close. "It's okay, Wendy. It wasn't your fault. Sometimes bad things just happen, and we're powerless to stop them." "But why Urza?" Wendy cried, her voice breaking in anguish. "She loved this guild more than anyone." Lucy couldn't respond. She could only hold Wendy tightly, her own heart aching for the pain of her friend. Mary Jane sighed, her voice heavy with the weight of their shared grief. "You're right about one thing," she began, drawing Gray's attention. "She was my best friend and rival. I feel angry too, but we know revenge won't bring her back. We understand that better than anyone now." Mary Jane closed her eyes, wiping a stray tear from her cheek before she turned to head toward the basement. Laxus Strayer watched in silence, observing the guild's reactions, even he feeling at a loss for words. The sorrow that permeated the hall seemed to choke off any semblance of comfort he could offer. "Where are you going?" Gray called after Mary Jane, his brow furrowed with concern. With a faint smile, she replied, "To get more drinks." As she walked away, she exhaled deeply, glancing back at the anguished faces of her guildmates. She felt the burden of responsibility weigh heavily on her. She had to try to keep their spirits up, but inside she was on the verge of breaking down, her emotions teetering on the brink of chaos. The pain she felt was reminiscent of the despair she had endured when they believed they had lost Lisanna, but this time, the doubt gnawed at her. She truly feared that Urza wouldn't return. The guild's basement was vast, fortified by magic, designed to serve as a safe haven, especially for its medical wing, the most protected area within the guild. As she descended the stairs, her mind raced with thoughts of her friends and their current state. Just as she passed the door leading to the medical wing, something made her stop. A flicker of disbelief danced in her chest. "What the?" Mary Jane rushed back and flung open the door to the side room, her heart pounding in her chest. To her utter astonishment, there lay Urza on a bed, sleeping peacefully, her face serene and free from the burdens of battle. Mary Jane's breath caught in her throat as her eyes widened, disbelief washing over her. "Is this a dream?" she whispered, her trembling hand reaching out towards Urza, unsure if what she was seeing was real or a cruel illusion. The guild had mourned, each member drowning in despair, But here, right before her eyes, was the flicker of hope they had all thought lost. Mary Jane stood frozen, grappling with the reality of the moment, her heart racing as she fought to comprehend the miracle that lay before her. Who are you exactly? Zeref's question sliced through the tranquil atmosphere of the forest, his voice laced with curiosity and caution. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. Naruto smiled and turned to face the dark mage, his demeanor relaxed yet alert. I'm someone not of this world, he replied, his arms folded across his chest as he took a slow step toward Zeref. But I'm sure you already knew that. I intended to search for you, but since you found me instead, I suspect you have something specific in mind. Zeref scrutinized Naruto with keen interest, his guard instinctively raised, a rare occurrence for him. He sensed a formidable power emanating from the young man before him, a force that was barely concealed beneath his casual exterior. You wanted to find me? Why? Naruto's smile faded slightly, replaced by a more serious expression. I have questions about this world. There are many things I wish to understand, especially if I'm to find a way back home. Why did you come here then? Zeref asked, narrowing his eyes. If you plan to leave so soon, Naruto smirked, the corners of his lips lifting in a wry grin. I didn't come here of my own volition. I'm fairly certain you felt the power that surged through this place when I arrived. I was caught up in a battle with someone who wanted to annihilate my world. I fought to stop that from happening, and well, things spiraled out of control, leading me here. Zeref pondered Naruto's words, sensing the truth within them, yet doubt still clawed at the edges of his mind. So, you're looking for me to find a way back? Naruto nodded. Yes. I've been trying to navigate a way home, but a dark feeling lingers about what's happening back in my world. There's this eclipse gate. Zeref's expression hardened at the mention of the gate. That weakened our dimension, didn't it? It's connected to the battle I was in, Naruto explained, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. My opponent could manipulate space itself, creating dimensions out of pure energy. He tried to seal me within one, which I vehemently opposed. I unleashed my strongest attack to break free, tearing the fabric of reality in the process. Normally, I would have been trapped in the void for a time, but Naruto's gaze drifted skyward, his eyes reflecting the turmoil of his thoughts. Your dimension was weakened, allowing the void to expel us, just me, into this world. Unfortunately, that led to the chaos you've witnessed. Zeref raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet skeptical. And your violent rampage? Naruto shrugged, a hint of regret creeping into his features. I was in a war. It was instinct. I know that explanation may not satisfy you, but it's the truth. I see. Zeref folded his arms, his expression contemplative. So, you wish to learn about dimension travel? Naruto nodded, determination flooding his tone. There was one technique I used to summon creatures across vast distances and dimensions, but it seems I can't perform that here. Zeref's gaze sharpened as he considered Naruto's words. From what you've said, it appears your techniques are linked. You mentioned that your attack tore open your dimension, and that the eclipse gate similarly affected ours. Coincidence? Naruto frowned, sensing the implications of Zeref's observations. What are you getting at? The two worlds must be simultaneously weakened for you to breach the dimensional barrier. While that might not pose a problem here, the real question is whether it's feasible back in your world, Zeref mused, his tone grave. Naruto's eyes widened at the realization. Zeref continued, you can't go back. If my deductions are accurate, you can't even contact your world to inform them of the necessary steps to tear the dimension apart. And let me ask you this. Do you have someone capable of tearing a hole in space? Naruto met Zeref's gaze, a mix of disbelief and resignation washing over him. No one alive at the moment. Zeref regarded him silently. That must be depressing to discover. I kind of suspected it, Naruto admitted with a sigh. Looks like I'll have to find a way to live here. Do you think this world would accept me after everything I've done? I can't say, Zeref replied, turning away slightly. But I would advise you not to dwell on it. Don't wait for acceptance to come to you. Live as you would in your own world, but perhaps not as violently as you did here. You're leaving, Naruto observed, his tone laced with confusion. Zeref began to walk away, pausing momentarily to glance back. I came to see who you were, to gauge what you might become. For now, I'm satisfied that you won't be causing any immediate problems, but trust is a different matter. Zeref's frown deepened as he added, know that I will be watching you, whoever you are. Naruto smiled, an understanding glint in his eyes. Even though this world may despise you, you still do what you can to protect it. Zeref's expression remained unchanged, a stoic mask in place. That's not the case at all. Sure, you might claim that, but I can see it, Naruto countered, stepping closer. I can sense when someone is protecting something they hold dear, be it a cause, a land, or a person they cherish. Zeref's eyes narrowed as Naruto halted in front of him, extending his hand in a gesture of friendship. Hello, Zeref. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Zeref regarded him incredulously. What are you doing? Naruto grinned, warmth emanating from his demeanor. Living here. The world may not realize it, but I can sense the faint love you hold for this land. That's why you isolate yourself, preventing your power from causing destruction. You wish to remain in solitude so that others may find peace. With a reassuring touch, Naruto placed his left hand on Ziraf's shoulder, eliciting a flicker of surprise from the dark mage. People like you are rare in my experience, Ziraf smirked, a hint of amusement breaking through his stoic facade. I am the dark mage, after all, Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. I've bonded with others who carry similar burdens. Nothing new for me. With a scoff, Ziraf turned away, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Watch your back. Many will be drawn to your power. You have no idea what lengths they might go to. The humans here, though weak, are incredibly crafty. Naruto chuckled softly, his gaze returning to the sky, a grin plastered across his face. As I said, nothing new? Thank you, Ziraf. I'm sure we'll meet again. With that, Ziraf vanished into the shadows of the trees, leaving behind only the faint impression of his footsteps, which killed the grass and parched the earth he touched. In contrast, Naruto walked in the opposite direction, channeling his chakra into the ground, healing the degradation left in Ziraf's wake. As Ziraf strolled away, he looked at his palm, musing over the interaction. Just being in his presence I could effectively control my power. He approached a nearby tree, brushing his fingers against its bark, momentarily mesmerized by the absence of destructive energy. Although he could still feel his power brimming within him, the tree remained unharmed. Suddenly, his eyes widened as he noticed the tree begin to shrink slightly beneath his touch, prompting him to withdraw his hand and step back in shock. The forest around him, once vibrant and full of life, stood as a testament to the delicate balance between his power and the world around him. Ziraf muttered to himself, his voice barely audible. Who are you, exactly? That was unexpected. Madara would likely be displeased that the meeting didn't escalate as anticipated. Back at home, Naruto settled into a meditative pose, seeking clarity amidst the whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. As he drifted deeper into his meditation, a deep voice rippled through the silence, drawing him into an ethereal landscape. Suddenly he found himself perched on the snout of Kurama, the mighty-tailed beast, gazing out over the Valley of the End, a place steeped in memories and conflict. Well, I never doubted his motives, not once I laid eyes on him, Naruto remarked, leaning back against Kurama's warm, reassuring presence, letting the familiar weight of his friend ground him. Kurama turned his head slightly, a puzzled expression crossing his features. Meaning what, exactly? Naruto took a moment to gather his thoughts, then replied, You gave me the ability to sense negative emotions, Kurama. When I met him, he exhibited none of that. His power is immense, but its oppressive nature doesn't do him any favors. It feels as if he has another being within him that he can't control, Kurama finished, a hint of understanding in his tone. Something like that. Naruto's gaze drifted skyward, contemplating the vast expanse above. Still, he doesn't trust me. That much is clear. Who would trust you, considering your history? Kurama pointed out, his tone tinged with dry humor. Naruto let out a nervous laugh. Well, I suppose I can't blame him for that. His expression darkened for a moment, as he recalled the encounter. But he could have at least accepted my handshake. He left me hanging. Kurama chuckled softly, the sound rumbling deep within him. Perhaps he reminds you of Sasuke? What? Naruto arched an eyebrow, feigning disbelief. No, not at all. I mean, I guess there's a slight resemblance, but he's nothing like Sasuke. I just don't see it. I see. So, who does he behave like then? Kurama pressed, genuinely curious. Naruto paused, a smile creeping onto his face as he considered the question. He behaves like Ziraf. Alter Milkovich awoke, with a low groan, her right hand instinctively moving to soothe the sharp pain that pierced through her temples. Blinking her eyes open, she found herself in an unfamiliar room, more specifically, a bedroom. Where am I? Confusion clouded her thoughts, and she quickly realized that she didn't feel the usual aches that accompanied her morning awakenings. Just as she was about to glance down to assess her condition, the door swung open, and in walked Naruto. She blinked in disbelief, recognition dawning on her as her eyes widened in shock. He wasn't a dream? She attempted to recoil in fear, but Naruto raised his arms in mock surrender, his demeanor disarming. Now calm down, Altair. I'm not going to hurt you. If I wanted to, I would have done that a while ago. Who are you? I've been asked that a lot today, so can we skip the formalities? Naruto flashed a smile before plopping down onto a wooden chair that seemed to appear at his command, leaving Altair awestruck. Cool, right? He said, grinning. I see why the first Hokage was considered pretty awesome. I mean, it's wood, he exclaimed, genuinely excited. Now, who are you really? Altair pressed, completely baffled by the shift in her captor's demeanor. The man before her was a stark contrast to the one she remembered, the one who radiated overwhelming, raw power. Now, all she sensed was warmth and an inexplicable sense of excitement that both intrigued and unsettled her. Naruto chuckled softly at her inquiry, scratching the back of his head. I'm sorry we haven't been formally introduced. I'm Naruto. Why are you here? Altair asked, her incredulity palpable. A little mishap between your world and mine. Nothing we can fix, he replied, a casual tone in his voice. Your world? She echoed, bewildered. To be honest, I was kinda hoping you'd freak out about the fact that I made you young again, Naruto added, a playful glint in his eyes. Wah! Altair's gaze shot down to her palms, her shock evident as she stared at the youthful, unmarred skin. What the hell is happening here? She looked back at him, desperation creeping into her voice. Why are you doing this? Images flashed in her mind, his words, his scrutiny. Altair Milkovich, daughter of Uar Milkovich, acting as an agent for the Dark Guild Grimoire Heart. The female who turned back time to save this world, huh? Interesting, though at a cost. All she needed was valuable information, yet her memories felt shallow, as if the merging of their worlds had affected her recollection. She could almost hear his voice now, commanding and unwavering. You will be briefed later. For now, sleep. Your purpose in my new world will come soon enough. Please, she pleaded, desperation bleeding through her words. I had just begun to find myself. I can't go back to what I was. I know about that, Altair, Naruto said, his voice softening with empathy. I understand the fear I must have instilled in you when we first met. That wasn't me. It was more about an unstable situation. He chuckled lightly, as if trying to lighten the mood. You mean you're insane? Altair questioned, skepticism lacing her tone as she regarded him closely. Naruto's left eyebrow twitched at her bluntness. Well, I guess if you put it that way, maybe I was a little out of place. His laughter filled the room, but it did little to assuage her growing unease. One thought continued to ripple through her mind. What the hell is happening? This was not the conversation she had expected at all. She had anticipated something much darker, something frightening given their initial encounter. Yet he seemed almost light-hearted. What are you going to do with me? Altair asked, her heart pounding in her chest. Naruto's response was simple. Let you go. She blinked, her confusion deepening. What? He grinned sheepishly, scratching the back of his head in a way that seemed oddly boyish. Things are a little complicated for me, and it may take a moment for me to find my place here. It would be nice if someone just knew I existed, you know? I don't follow, she admitted, furrowing her brow. You're someone who has seen the darkness of this world and has worked very hard not to be consumed by it. Those are the strongest allies you could find in this world. Altair studied him carefully, her expression shifting from confusion to contemplation as he continued. You're trying to find your place in Earthland, away from the shadows that engulfed you when you joined Grimoire Heart. Her eyes widened, and Naruto smiled at the realization reflected on her face. I've teetered on the edge of that darkness myself, consumed by so much hatred and anger, yet I managed to find myself. He turned his gaze back to her, sincerity etched across his features. I believe you can do the same, and while I could wipe your memories of us meeting, I wouldn't want to do that. I need at least one person who could understand me, but it's your choice to make. I don't want you to agree to stay out of fear. That's not what I need right now. Why do you think that could be me? She questioned, still grappling with the weight of his words. Naruto's smile was knowing. Just a gut feeling. I'm rarely wrong about those instincts, but then again, it is too early to make mistakes. Altair remained puzzled. So, you're really letting me go? Yeah, he replied casually, but his tone shifted. But I can't let information about who I am run loose like that. I'm sorry in advance. What are you doing? Before Altair could fully comprehend his intention, darkness engulfed her once more, pulling her back into unconsciousness. Naruto sighed, a tinge of disappointment in his expression. He just couldn't trust her yet. You know she will return, Kurama chimed in, breaking the silence. We'll see about that. As I told her, I want her to make the choice herself. He winced as a migraine seared through his mind, irritation boiling within him. Damn clones. Kurama chuckled at his discomfort. At least they did their jobs. Combining both the shadow clone and the transformation technique at that level takes a toll on anyone, even Indra. Who the hell's that? Naruto inquired, intrigued. Someone I knew, Kurama replied cryptically. Naruto scrutinized him. I feel like I'm missing a lot from that statement, Kurama. I've been alive for centuries, Kurama explained matter-of-factly. You would understand if you realized how many humans I've met in my lifetime. Understandable, Naruto shrugged, standing up from his chair and glancing at the unconscious Altair. But my point is, it feels as if she isn't just an ordinary human. Of course she isn't, Kurama chuckled. She's from a world steeped in magic and darkness. After all, she was part of Grimoire Heart. Really? Naruto blinked, surprised as he walked closer to her. I thought that was the Nidame's technique. He thought he invented it, Kurama clarified, amusement in his tone. We could say he did, since he had no prior knowledge of the shadow clone technique. The normal clone technique was a watered-down version of Indra's original, as many didn't possess the necessary chakra to perform it. Never thought of it that way, Naruto mused, placing his palm gently on Altair's forehead and closing his eyes in concentration. It actually answers questions about how that frustrating clone technique came about. Oh yeah, Kurama laughed at Naruto's irritated expression. The bane of Uzumaki Naruto, tch. Anyway, the second Hokage thought about adding substance to the technique. Since he had the chakra to perform it, he reinvented it, so to speak. What are you doing now? Checking her memories for her base, Naruto replied, focus etched on his features. Even though she walked around with Crime Sorcière, she should have a safe haven to return to. You intend to drop her off there? Kurama asked, curiosity piqued. Yup. Naruto closed his eyes and delved deep into her memories, noting the icy landscapes that emerged in his mind. He chuckled softly. Funny how she hated her mother, yet her home was where she always returned. Looking down at Altair, a warm smile spread across his face. Well, Altair, let's get you home. Era was a bustling town, strategically built around the imposing presence of a high rocky mountain. Nestled atop this mountain was the headquarters of the Magic Council, the supreme authority governing the intricate world of magic. As the central ruling body of the entire magic world, the council wielded nearly absolute control over all aspects of magical society, functioning as the leading governmental entity. They regulated the myriad legal guilds scattered across Earthland, overseeing their activities and maintaining a watchful eye to ensure compliance. The council possessed the authority to register or disband any guild, a power that carried significant weight in maintaining order and stability. Within the austere confines of the Magic Council's headquarters in Era, the Wizard Saints and council members convened for a critical meeting to address recent, unsettling developments. Hyberian, the new chairman of the council, called the room to attention with a grave tone. We decided to have this meeting now to allow time for us to gather our thoughts and perspectives before determining our next course of action. As you all know, we have been graced by a visitor from another world, someone of considerable power. His words elicited frowns and murmurs of concern across the chamber, reactions Hyberian chose to ignore. He continued, "The king has placed me in charge of the council's future actions, granting me the responsibility of uncovering the identity of this interloper and his intentions." Wolfheim, his brow furrowed, leaned forward, adding, "Thus far, he has remained frustratingly silent. As we scramble to devise a method to track him down, his lack of movement is stalling our progress." Makarov interjected, his voice steady. "He's likely gathering intelligence. He must be trying to learn more about our world, especially considering the violent manner of his arrival." Lahar sighed, folding his arms in exasperation. "It seems we've hit a significant obstacle. I directed the knights to disseminate posters and flyers throughout Fiori, assuming he must have traveled far by now, but we've encountered nothing. Utilizing the rune knights seems futile," Makarov remarked, tapping his index finger on the table thoughtfully. He turned to Hyberian, determination etched on his face. "We require a dedicated team, specifically organized by the Magic Council, to track him down and bring him in." "A team?" Hyberian raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Are you suggesting something akin to the allied guild formed to eliminate Oration Cease? This situation is far more urgent than that. I'm not just proposing any team. I'm suggesting the Heaven Squad." The mention of the renowned elite group drew widened gazes and hushed whispers among the council members. Michello, astonished, spoke up. "Heaven Squad? You intend to unleash the full might of the Wizard Saints upon him?" "As soon as we locate him," Makarov emphasized, his gaze firm. His assertion prompted a contemplative silence, during which Warad narrowed his eyes at him, wary of Makarov's impassioned approach. "What are you doing, Makarov? He is powerful, more powerful than we initially anticipated," Makarov continued, the gravity of his words palpable. "Do we really want to risk another incident akin to Zerif? But deploying Heaven's Squad?" Ord muttered, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Do you truly believe that's the best course of action?" "I stand behind Makarov's recommendation," Grandoma added, his voice resolute. "I believe he left unscathed because he caught us off guard. The Saints possess the capability to subdue him, regardless of where he may be." "Regardless of that," Hyberian interjected firmly, "only the king possesses the authority to command the squad. I will propose this idea to him, and if he declines, we must seek alternative strategies. We are currently at war with this individual," Wolfheim stated vehemently, his fist slamming against the table. "Whoever he is, whatever his intentions are for this land, we cannot allow them to materialize. He made the grave error of attacking us, and he will pay dearly for it." Hyberian nodded in agreement. "Wolfheim encapsulates our predicament succinctly. Any information regarding him would be invaluable. Lahar, I want you to increase the reward for any leads that may result in his capture. I will instruct the council to mobilize into your districts to intensify the search for him. We must work to make this world smaller for him. If there's nothing further." "Actually," Lahar began, drawing the council's attention once more. He raised his hand, signaling two guards to enter, each holding large piles of papers. Jura looked on, puzzled. "What's all this?" Lahar let out a weary sigh. "Requests for new guild establishments. It seems we have received numerous applications from individuals seeking to establish guilds as a form of retaliation for recent events. While most are driven by vengeance, we've managed to filter out the few that appear promising." Hyberian raised an eyebrow, assessing the mountainous pile of paperwork. "And this massive collection, are these the ones you screened?" Lahar nodded, fatigue evident in his demeanor. "There were far too many. I'm not entirely certain why so many individuals chose to create guilds instead of requesting to join existing ones, but the responsibility now falls to you for approval." Hyberian felt the weight of impending exhaustion settle upon him. "We cannot approve all of these applications. Select 10 of the most impressive proposals and discard the rest. We can screen potential guild masters at a later date." Lahar nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Understood. Why not consider all of them?" Warad suggested with a chuckle. "We could be overlooking someone with great potential. If they truly aspire to become guild masters, they will reapply in due time. Until then, follow my directive." Hyberian sighed, massaging his temples in anticipation of the headache to come. If there's nothing else, I will meet with the king to discuss the outcomes of today's meeting, along with the proposal regarding Heaven's Squad. We shall reconvene at a later date. This meeting is adjourned. As each council member departed the hall, making their way to their respective homes, Makarov was stopped in his tracks. Makarov, I need to speak with you. What is it, Warad-san? Makarov replied without turning, his focus fixed ahead. Has it really been so long since I witnessed your birth, Makarov? You've certainly grown, haven't you? Get to the point. I need to see my children. Cranky, I see, Warad remarked, his tone suddenly serious. Makarov stopped this. Makarov's eyes widened, finally turning to face Warad. What? It serves you no good to be guided by anger. It will cloud your judgment. My judgment has already been clouded, Warad, Makarov snapped, clenching his fists in frustration. He killed one of my children and left another in a state of unconsciousness. I swear I will end him at the first opportunity. Makarov, Mavis wouldn't want this. Mavis would have wanted me to protect them with my life if necessary. That is the duty of the master of fairy tale. The longer I linger in inaction, the more I feel I am desecrating both her and Urza's memories. You are already tarnishing their memories by behaving like this. You are meant to be the beacon of hope for the guild, guiding them through their struggles. And I am meant to shoulder the darkness that comes with being their leader, am I not, Warad? Makarov replied sharply. I am aware of the creed I took upon becoming master. The darkness you are supposed to shoulder is not meant for your personal revenge, Makarov. I hope you can comprehend that. Warad turned to leave but paused at the threshold of the council building, casting one last glance back at Makarov. Consider your actions carefully, Makarov. Will you be able to live with yourself after all this? With that, Warad disappeared into the shadows, leaving Makarov standing in contemplation. Gritting his teeth, Makarov set off, determined to return to his guild. However, he was halted when his lacrima began to glow in his pocket. Raising an eyebrow, he reached for it, curious about what could warrant such urgency. Perhaps a new member? Master! Mirajane's voice cut through the tension, laced with alarm. Makarov felt a surge of anxiety. Mira? What's going on? I couldn't believe it at first, but then she woke up and... Makarov spoke gently, though concern seeped into his voice. She? Mira, calm down, and tell me what's happening. Let me speak to him. Gildart's voice chimed in, prompting Makarov to narrow his gaze. Hey there, Master. Gildarts, what's happening over there? Well, I'm not quite sure how to explain it. You need to get here to grasp the full situation, but as of now? Urza's alive, and she's here. What? Naruto gazed thoughtfully at the rectangular wooden plank before him, reflecting on the work he had just completed. The sun cast a warm glow on the freshly carved letters, illuminating the effort he had poured into this project. Do you think it will work? Kurama's voice broke the silence, curiosity lacing his tone as Naruto blew away the dust that had settled on the wood. I believe so. I used my clones to impersonate a variety of people and sent requests to the Magic Council. With all that groundwork laid, it should work without a doubt, Naruto replied, a hint of confidence in his voice. Kurama hesitated, skepticism creeping into his demeanor. But seriously, creating a guild? Isn't that a bit ambitious? Naruto straightened, his eyes shining with determination. Well, Zeref did suggest I should acclimate to this land. Honestly, I'm too exhausted to keep wandering around as a freelance mage. It feels cumbersome, and the thought of establishing a guild here sounds far more appealing. Plus, I think it would be fun. Kurama chuckled, a low rumble of amusement. How I can't help but agree with you. You thrive in chaos, after all. So, what do you think of the name? Naruto asked, a grin spreading across his face as he surveyed his handiwork. Kurama leaned in, examining the carved letters. It feels appropriate. The Guardian's Haven. You're not just establishing a guild, you're creating a sanctuary for those who seek protection and camaraderie. Naruto's grin widened. I genuinely believe this could be the start of something great. Don't you think so, Kurama? Of course, Kurama replied, his voice steady but carrying an undertone of warning. But remember, you have a way of drawing attention to yourself, both intentionally and unintentionally. It's a double-edged sword, and it's to be expected. Naruto returned his gaze to the plank, which bore the words the Guardian's Haven intricately carved using his wind chakra. The name resonated with him, symbolizing not just a guild, but a community where strength and support would flourish. As he stood there, the weight of his decision settled in. He felt a surge of excitement and trepidation, knowing that this was just the beginning of an adventure that would change everything. Chapter 4 Meetings. Naruto sat slumped in a chair, staring ahead with a palpable sense of boredom. His cheek rested against the back of his right hand as he gazed across the table at a slightly rotund man who was busily scribbling on a piece of paper. The man, sporting a cheerful demeanor, whistled a lively tune that seemed to emanate from nowhere, lost in his own world of creativity. A name tag read George was affixed to his shirt, swaying slightly as he bobbed his head along with his self-composed melody. Naruto frowned, a twitch developing in his eyebrow as he watched George's seemingly endless enthusiasm. I could simply just mind control him, Naruto mused, irritation bubbling beneath his surface. It's infuriating to have a conscience sometimes. Heh, Kurama chuckled through their mental link. You were the one who insisted on handling things peacefully and legally, remember? Naruto sighed, exasperated. I need a legal document for the building I plan to establish for the guild. I can't just conjure up a structure out of thin air and declare that I have a guild. But honestly, I'm reaching my limit with this guy. I might just activate the sharingan on him out of sheer frustration. Whoa, Kurama responded, surprised by Naruto's intensity. Yeah. I'm that pissed. And with this, Mr. Uzumaki, we are done with the write-ups. Sorry for the delay, George said, his voice brightening the room as he flashed a wide smile, oblivious to the storm brewing in Naruto's mind. Finally. Thank you, George, Naruto replied, forcing a smile in return as he met the man's gaze. Just look at him, grinning knowingly. He knows it drives me insane. I think you need to cool down, Kurama advised, a note of caution in his tone. With a heavy sigh, Naruto stood up and walked out of the legal institution, his footsteps echoing in the hallway as he stepped into the vibrant bustle of the outside world. The air was thick with the sounds of conversation and the hum of activity, with people moving purposefully in every direction. I guess everyone else is busy, he reflected, a small smile creeping onto his face as he took in the lively scene around him. Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Naruto began to walk away from the legal institution, heading toward the location he had secured for the guild. Each step felt lighter, invigorated by the prospect of building something meaningful amidst the chaos of daily life. Urza scrunched her face in confusion as she slowly regained consciousness. With a relieved sigh, she opened her eyes and found herself in the familiar confines of the medical wing. The sterile scent of antiseptic hung in the air, and she blinked in surprise, taking in her surroundings. This is fairy tale? How did I end up here? She swung her legs over the edge of the bed and placed her feet on the cold floor, but to her dismay, standing up proved more difficult than she had anticipated. As she staggered slightly, she leaned against the wall for support. A sharp pain shot through her head, and she grunted, instinctively massaging her temples with her fingers, willing the discomfort to fade. It feels like it's been ages since I last stood. What is happening to me? Listening intently, she heard the lively commotion filtering in from beyond the door. A smile tugged at her lips, a flicker of warmth igniting within her heart. Despite everything that had transpired, her guild remained unchanged, her home still stood strong. Gathering her strength, Urza pushed herself upright and slowly made her way to the door. Placing her hand on the handle, she hesitated for a moment, contemplating the weight of her current situation. Taking a deep breath, she shrugged off her apprehension and twisted the handle, swinging the door open. The sudden silence that met her was almost deafening. Urza blinked in confusion, her eyes sweeping over the shocked faces of her guildmates gathered in the main hall. The vibrant energy of fairy tale felt almost tangible, yet the hushed atmosphere felt foreign. Urza? Gray called out hesitantly, his voice breaking the stillness as hope flickered in his expression. A genuine smile spread across her face as she nodded in acknowledgement. Gray. In an instant, Lucy rushed forward, enveloping the re-equipped mage in a tight embrace, tears streaming down her cheeks. It's really you, Urza? You're back. Her voice trembled with emotion, a mix of relief and joy washing over her. Urza blinked in surprise, her gaze shifting around the guild hall. What happened? She asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Kana looked on in disbelief as Lucy released Urza from their heartfelt hug, wiping her tears away. You don't remember anything? No, Urza's voice trailed off, her mind struggling to piece together fragmented memories. A sharp pain shot through her head again, causing her to stagger slightly, but Lucy quickly steadied her. Urza! The guild members exclaimed in unison, worry etched across their faces. Urza took a deep breath, attempting to calm her racing heart. Suddenly, flashes of Naruto's dramatic descent into Crocus flooded her mind, and her eyes widened with realization. Urza! Lucy's concerned voice broke through her thoughts. Are you alright? Before Urza could respond, the door swung open again, and Mary Jane stepped into the guild, a smile brightening her face. Wendy followed closely behind, struggling to carry several crates of drinks. Their expressions shifted from surprise to delight as they realized the center of attention. Urza! Wendy exclaimed, her eyes widening in joy. She's awake! Mary Jane added, her voice ringing with excitement. Urza's heart swelled at the sight of Wendy. Without thinking, she rushed forward and enveloped her in a tight hug, feeling the warmth of her presence. Wendy! Urza, you're all right! Wendy cried, her voice muffled against Urza's shoulder. I thought that you... Me too, Wendy admitted tearfully. Mess saved me. Mess, huh? Urza's heart softened at the mention of their friend, grateful for his timely intervention. With a tender smile, Urza nodded. It's a relief to know you're safe. Laxus stood at a distance, gazing down at her with a stunned silence that slowly morphed into a smile. Without a word, he turned and disappeared from the guild hall, allowing the moment to unfold naturally. Gilberts observed from afar, a content smile on his face. He felt a sense of gratitude that things had taken this turn, despite the confusion surrounding it all. He knew how dire the situation could have become had Urza not returned. Now all he could do was wait for the master to return. They needed to unravel the mysteries of what had transpired and understand the full extent of the events that had led them to this moment. Naruto Uzumaki? An attendant of the Magic Council, a frog to be precise, called out from the entrance of the waiting room. Upon realizing that Naruto was the only person present, it blinked in surprise. Yup, that's me. Naruto replied, giving a mock salute as he stood up, groaning at the long wait he had endured. The tension of anticipation was palpable. You have a strange name, the frog remarked, tilting its head slightly. Says the talking frog, Naruto shot back with a smirk. Touché. With a brief smile exchanged, Naruto walked past the attendant and into the council meeting hall, where he was directed to stand at the center. As he looked up, he took note of the various expressions on the faces of the council members and felt an unexpected dry amusement wash over him. Creepy much? He quipped, breaking the silence. Uzumaki Naruto? Hiberian muttered, fatigue evident in his voice. The mere sight of Naruto's mischievous expression suggested he might be in for a long day filled with headaches. Yup, you are the 10th and last candidate to be screened today for the position of Guildmaster, Grandoma announced, his tone clipped and dismissive. None of the previous candidates have impressed us, so I wouldn't hold out much hope for you. Naruto's eyebrow twitched slightly as he felt the condescending aura emanating from the man. And here I thought I was done with jerks like this. Hiberian couldn't help but smirk at Naruto's reaction, gesturing to a seat behind him. Please have a seat. He relaxed into his chair as Naruto followed suit, the weight of the moment settling in. So Hiberian began, rifling through his folder. Why do you want to become a guild master? You'll need to be more specific, Naruto replied, a hint of mischief in his tone. How specific do you need me to be? Hiberian arched an eyebrow, his patience visibly wearing thin. Just tell me why you want this position. Why not just join a guild like everyone else? Naruto interlocked his fingers and leaned back, resting the back of his head against them. Yeah, joining a guild isn't really my thing. You see, I'm more of a leader kind of guy. I see. Hiberian replied, but the skepticism in his voice was unmistakable. No, you don't. It's bullshit, Naruto countered, a grin breaking across his face. Wolfheim frowned, clearly annoyed. This is what I get for attending a council meeting? He cleared his throat, addressing Naruto directly. Mind your tone, you are speaking before the Magic Council. Yeah? Let's skip the formalities, shall we? I want to guide the next generation to a better tomorrow and all that usual hero stuff. I mean, being a light guild master is far more beneficial than being a dark guild one. Naruto shrugged casually. Right. I mean, every master should possess considerable power, Hiberian interjected sharply, cutting off Naruto's ramblings. This means they should be well known and respected in the community. Naruto raised an eyebrow, the corner of his mouth twitching in amusement. Your question being, why haven't I heard of you? Your name doesn't ring any bells. The only records we have of you are from a few days ago, when you applied for a guild building permit, almost as if you knew you'd receive approval from us. Is that a bit arrogant? Sir, Naruto drawled, feigning confusion, how many questions are you asking? Who are you exactly? Hiberian pressed. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Where are you from? The mountains in the north. Hiberian narrowed his gaze. Is that meant to be a joke? No, actually, I'm from the mountains. My master was more of a monkish type, and he raised me there. And where is your master now? He's dead, Naruto replied flatly, summoning a wooden table and casually placing his feet on it. The council members exchanged puzzled glances, and most turned to Warad, who raised his hands in mock surrender. I do not know him, he stated. Naruto chuckled at the aged wizard saint's response, leaning back comfortably in his seat. I figured it was time for a change of scenery since I've always been curious about the world. And then there was that attack in Crocus. He either missed or disregarded the tense reactions from the council. Things are brewing up, and I'm pretty sure you need my strength. So how strong are you? Hiberian asked, leaning forward slightly, intrigued. Very, Naruto replied confidently. Prove it. Wolfheim's tone was skeptical, his gaze fixed intently on Naruto. Grandoma glanced toward the door. Lahar. Bring the orb. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the command. Lahar bowed respectfully and opened a cupboard, revealing a massive lacrima orb, carefully supported by a tripod stand. This, Lahar explained, will help us gauge your abilities. Or rather, your magical strength. Naruto clicked his teeth, his expression shifting to one of curiosity. Does it read chakra? Can you convert it to pure energy? Kurama asked, his voice resonating in Naruto's mind. No, it's likely that the orb is designed for magic, and considering its difference from chakra, I don't want to raise any suspicions today. What will you do now? Kurama inquired, his tone tinged with concern. I have an idea. Nature energy. Since magic is in the air, all I need to do is discreetly enter sage mode and channel its power into it. Will it work? Kurama asked, uncertainty lacing his words. I'm as confused as you are right now, Naruto admitted, a hint of nervous laughter escaping him. Lahar placed the orb directly in front of Naruto. Well, Naruto-san, do you mind placing your hands on the orb and channeling your magic through it? No, Naruto replied with a smile. I don't mind at all. Stepping slightly to the side, Lahar gave Naruto room as he stood up, the council members watching him with a mix of skepticism and anticipation. The previous 9 candidates had all been impressive, and merely conjuring wood from thin air wouldn't sway their opinions. How durable is it? Naruto asked, glancing at Lahar. Pretty durable, Lahar chuckled lightly. I see. Placing his right hand on the orb, Naruto began to draw in the magic surrounding him, transforming it into its purest form, nature energy. As he slowly channeled the energy into the orb, the device began to count upward, quickly escalating into the hundreds and then slowing as it approached 1,000. Grandoma scoffed, thinking, mediocre considering the highest point is 10,000. This big mouth is all he has. Hyberian's eyes narrowed, his curiosity piqued. Something's happening. Suddenly, the orb glowed brightly, the numbers racing upward before finally stopping at an impressive 9998. You're an idiot, Kurama muttered, half amused. Shut up, Kurama, Naruto chuckled. It wouldn't do to overload the thing. Kurama's incredulity was palpable. And 9998 is just the beginning? Doma's eyes widened in disbelief. What? A normal magic output of 9,998. What in the world is happening here? The council members exchanged astonished glances, their expressions a mixture of confusion and skepticism as they turned their attention to Naruto. Warad narrowed his eyes, a hint of suspicion creeping into his voice. Boy, your magic, it feels strange. Naruto's smirk widened, though his tone dipped, adopting an air of nonchalance. Of course it does. Hyberian regarded Naruto with a calculated gaze, weighing the implications of this unexpected revelation. Naruto continued, it's a lost magic. Wolfheim murmured thoughtfully, I've encountered lost magic before. There are many variations, but I must admit yours stands out. Naruto frowned slightly, sensing the growing suspicion in the room. As I thought, they're not convinced. I need to redirect their attention completely. You're familiar with Tartaros, aren't you? He asked, looking directly at Wolfheim, who appeared slightly puzzled but also wary. Yes? Wolfheim replied, his brow furrowed. You could say my power is a hybrid, part magic, part curse. Lahar's eyes narrowed, his interest piqued. Curses? Michello interjected, his voice filled with intrigue. It's more archaic than that. You see, my master, although he was a monk, was not always virtuous. He defeated a demon of Zeref and conducted experiments on my body when I was very young, mixing curses with magic. What? Michello exclaimed, his shock mirrored by the tense expressions of the rest of the council. You're a demon of Zeref? I just said something completely different, Naruto replied dryly, exhaling a resigned sigh. My magic has been mutated due to these two energy sources, which explains my unusual power. My master believed that demons and mages could coexist. He never considered that I would come to despise both. Why is that? Org asked, genuine curiosity flickering in his eyes. Because they killed my parents, Naruto replied, his voice steady but tinged with bitterness. The fact that this power originated from those very curses only fuels my desire to wield it in battle. Hyberian leaned back in contemplation, his expression contemplative. You realize that due to your connection with Zeref, we will need to keep a close watch on you. Why else would I want to come here? Naruto countered, his tone earnest. Unfortunate circumstances shaped who I am today, but I believe my power could be instrumental in combating the dark guilds and mages across Earthland. It's a complex situation, sure, but I wouldn't be here if I weren't sincere about my intentions. And what if this is all a trick? Doma asked, arching an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. His posture made it clear that he was opposed to Naruto's induction as a Guildmaster. I'll leave that to your judgment, Naruto replied, his voice calm. I understand that earning your trust right now is ambitious, but I hope that in the future, it won't be an issue. Warad leaned forward, curiosity dancing in his eyes. This hybrid energy of yours, does it have a name? Yes. Naruto nodded, a smile breaking through his previously serious demeanor. It's called chakra. Hyberian scrutinized him with a narrowed gaze, deep in thought as he processed the information. Give us some time to deliberate, Uzumaki-san, he said finally, the weight of Naruto's revelations hanging heavily in the air. Cold winds swept in from the north, their biting chill carrying flurries of snow that danced through the air. The landscape was completely blanketed in white, transforming the trees into ghostly sentinels draped in frost. Despite the harshness of the weather, a tranquil beauty enveloped the scene, as the soft sunlight filtered through the clouds, casting a golden hue over the snow-laden terrain. The world felt serene, almost magical, as if it were holding its breath in a moment of stillness. Deep within this wintry landscape stood a small, sturdy home, a humble refuge against the relentless forces of nature. The wind howled, beating against the walls of the house, sending a chorus of chimes ringing from the bells hung outside, their notes brightening the somber atmosphere. Inside the warmth of the cozy dwelling, Altair stirred from her sleep with a low groan. As she yawned and blinked to clear the remnants of slumber, confusion washed over her. Her gaze swept across the room, a puzzled expression etching itself on her features. I'm home how? Am I dreaming? Stunned by the familiarity of her surroundings, she instinctively glanced around for signs of life, her heart quickening as alarm began to creep in. Finding no one else present, her attention was drawn to the mirror perched by the bedside. When she looked into it, her breath caught in her throat. The reflection staring back at her was that of a youthful woman, vibrant and full of life. What is going on here? Why can't I remember? Panic clawed at her chest as a sharp pain ricocheted through her skull, sending her staggering back. Fragments of memories flickered in and out of focus. She recalled a time when the sky had opened up, and a figure had descended, a moment that had felt both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Then nothing. Darkness enveloped her, erasing everything that had come after. Shaking her head to dispel the fog clouding her thoughts, Altair forced herself to stand. She took a moment to absorb her surroundings, each detail feeling both familiar and foreign, as a single thought resonated through her mind like a relentless echo. What happened? High magic output or not, I am firmly against his induction as a Guildmaster, Grandoma asserted, his voice resonating with authority. Count me in on that, Michello muttered, a frown marring his features. The mere combination of Zeref, curses, and the title of Light Guildmaster raises serious concerns. This would be a monumental mistake. Wolfheim leaned back thoughtfully, his brow furrowed. While I share your concerns, we cannot ignore the undeniable strength he possesses. We must act decisively to manage this situation before it spirals out of control, especially with the possibility of him forming a dark guild. What do you propose we do? Someone asked, looking around the table for solutions. Warad leaned forward, capturing the council's full attention. Our best course of action is to monitor him closely. Org tilted his head in confusion. And how do you suggest we go about that? Simple, Warad replied with a measured tone. We approve his request to form a guild, but we keep a watchful eye on his activities. This way, if he poses a threat, we can address it swiftly before it grows into a larger problem. Hyberian tapped his index finger on the table, the sound echoing in the tense silence. But consider the implications of his unique magic. Imagine the potential of combining magic and curses. This discovery could level the playing field in our fight against Zeref and his demons. He turned his gaze to the council, his expression resolute. I have made my decision, and I hope to find you all in agreement. Across the training grounds, Natsu stood frozen in shock as he spotted Urza approaching him with a warm smile, a sight he thought he would never see again. Hey, Natsu. I heard it was pretty rough for you in my absence, she said lightly, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and warmth. He clenched his fists, a surge of emotion bubbling to the surface. I thought you were gone for good. I thought so too. Urza's voice trailed off, her expression turning serious as confusion clouded her features. Something happened. I know this might be bewildering for you right now, but believe me, I'm just as lost. Natsu let out a short laugh, brushing away tears that had threatened to spill. Yeah, you did just come back from the dead. Urza's right hand absently traced the contours of her breastplate, lingering around the spot where she had been fatally wounded. She smiled wistfully, her gaze lifting to the sky as if seeking answers among the clouds. I guess that's one way to put it. As she approached him, her hand found its way to his shoulder, grounding him in the moment. I'm sorry for everything that's happened, Natsu. Her voice softened, filled with regret. I acted rashly, without thinking. Watching Wendy in danger elicited a primal reaction from me, one that clouded my judgment. She looked deeply into his eyes, her expression earnest. I never wanted to put you through that, and for my foolishness, I truly apologize. For a moment, Natsu was taken aback, rendered speechless by the weight of her words. Then, a genuine smile broke across his face. Yeah, I get it. Urza smiled back, the tension between them easing as she glanced around the battlefield, taking note of the scorch marks and remnants of their earlier skirmishes. You've been busy. Yeah, Natsu replied, his mood darkening as he clenched his fists. I still don't know who that guy was or why he did what he did. A determined gleam sparked in his eyes as memories of his battle with Naruto surged through his mind. Fire Dragon's Roar. His thoughts echoed with the haunting words of his adversary, an even more interesting source of magic. It was different from the one used by that old man. You do not care for the life of your comrade that you would attack. Amusing. Shut the hell up. Natsu roared, flames enveloping him as he ignited his Dragon Force mode. Interesting. But I have no time to play with you. Roararg. Natsu charged forward, his fist aimed squarely at Naruto's head. But just as he was about to make contact, something unseen halted him mid-strike, leaving him suspended in the air. What? It's not enough, Naruto's voice resonated with a chilling power. Something is holding your true strength back. I would love to fight you once you unlock that potential, but for now, all you have to do is simple. As Naruto revealed his red Mangekyo eyes, Natsu felt a chill run down his spine. Fear. The word echoed ominously in his mind. He turned to Urza, who remained resolute, her focus unbroken by his distress. He was strong, the strongest person I've ever faced. Urza smirked, glancing at the trees as if gauging her own strength. And what are you going to do about it? I'm going to train, and train, and train, Natsu declared, his spirit ignited. And when I'm strong enough, I'll kick his ass. Urza's smile widened as she drew her sword, the gleam of metal catching the light. Well, let's get started on that, shall we? Natsu's enthusiasm surged as he summoned his dragon flames around him. Oh, I'm so pumped. He lunged for a punch, but Urza gracefully evaded, sending him crashing into the ground. She paused, deep in thought. I need to be strong too. Whatever happened to me, I know that man. Naruto's white hair and glowing sharingan flashed through her memory. I know he's involved with this. If I am to face him again, she fell into a combat stance, determination radiating from her. As Natsu burst from the ground, drawing in his dragon magic, he prepared to unleash his fiery breath. Fire Dragon's Roar! Urza squared her shoulders, staring down the impending inferno with unwavering resolve. I have to ensure I'm strong enough so that he never looks down on me again. With a battle cry, she met Natsu's flames head-on, the collision generating a shockwave that rippled across the battlefield. A massive cloud of dust erupted around them, forcing Natsu to shield his eyes with the back of his hand. After a tense moment, the dust began to settle, revealing Urza clad in her flame empress armor, a confident grin on her face that mirrored Natsu's own exhilaration. In that moment, two mages stood united in their determination, each sharing a common goal, to confront a man of unparalleled power. Together, they looked ahead, unwavering in their resolve to forge their paths, even in the face of uncertainty and the looming threat of danger. They were ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them, even if it meant risking their lives. Naruto sneezed lightly as he stepped back into the meeting hall, his eyes scanning the solemn faces of the council members who had gathered to discuss his fate. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and he could feel the weight of their scrutiny pressing down on him. Uzumaki Naruto, Hyperion began, his voice steady yet commanding. At the mention of his name, Naruto raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. This council has engaged in extensive deliberations regarding your potential induction as a guild master. The origins of your power, particularly its ties to Zeref, certainly complicate matters. Nevertheless, we are prepared to give you the benefit of the doubt. Ah, thanks. Naruto replied with a smirk, trying to lighten the mood, though he sensed the underlying tension. Hyperion's left eyebrow twitched slightly, a subtle indication of his frustration. However, we will require monthly reports detailing your guild's activities and processes. You don't trust me? Naruto feigned a pout, placing a hand dramatically over his heart. That hurts, you know. Not yet, Hyperion corrected, his gaze piercing through Naruto's facade. But you have an opportunity to rectify that impression. Naruto nodded thoughtfully, the gravity of the situation settling in. I understand. Will that be all? There's one more matter, Hyperion continued, leaning forward slightly, his voice lowering. You will be assigned a supervisor, not only to monitor your progress but also to assist you when necessary, especially considering your background from the northern mountains. A chuckle escaped Naruto's lips, his demeanor lightening. Acceptable. And who will be my supervisor? The Guildmaster of Fairy Tail, Makarov Dreyer, Hyperion stated firmly. At the mention of Makarov's name, Naruto's smile faltered momentarily, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Hyperion noticed and pressed. Any problem with that? Naruto met Hyperion's gaze, a brief tension hanging in the air as they held a silent stare-down. Finally, he broke into a smile, shaking his head. No, nothing at all. Good, Hyperion replied, nodding with satisfaction. Then, Uzumaki Naruto, with the authority invested in me, I hereby award you the rank of Guildmaster. Do you have a name in mind for your guild? A genuine smile spread across Naruto's face as he surveyed the council members, taking in their varied expressions, some skeptical, others cautiously optimistic. This was a moment of significance, and he felt the weight of their expectations upon him. The Guardian's Haven, he declared confidently, the name resonating with a sense of purpose. Ward's smile broadened at the announcement, and Hyperion nodded in approval. Congratulations, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto let out a short scoff, unable to contain his excitement, though it was tinged with disbelief. Thanks. Guess I've officially leveled up. His smile was contagious, illuminating the room and easing the tension that had enveloped them moments before. In that moment, Naruto felt the rush of new beginnings and the challenges that lay ahead. He was ready to embrace his role, determined to prove himself to the council and, more importantly, to himself. So you don't remember anything at all, Urza? Makarov asked, his voice steady but tinged with concern as he sat across from her in his modest office. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old tomes and mementos of past guild missions, a silent testament to the history they had built together. Urza met his gaze, her expression resolute yet clouded with uncertainty. Yes, master. The last thing I recall is seeing Wendy seemingly crushed beneath a meteor. In that moment, I lost control and charged at him. Her voice trembled slightly as she relived the memory, a flicker of anguish crossing her features. Leaning casually against the wall, Guildarts narrowed his eyes, his brows furrowing in deep thought. Her memories have been erased, he concluded, a heavy weight of certainty resting in his words. He cast a glance toward Makarov, who returned his look with a grave nod, confirming the unspoken suspicions hanging in the air. There was a sinister force at play, one that had orchestrated this memory loss. Have you figured out who he is, master? The visitor? Guildarts pressed, his voice low and serious. Unfortunately, he has remained silent so far, Makarov replied, his tone growing grim. That is far from reassuring. If he is planning something, we should have caught wind of it by now. Our spies in the Dark Guild should have been able to gather information, but so far, nothing. I see, Urza murmured, a chill running down her spine. The implications were heavy. Makarov leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. The only information we've been able to gather is that several Dark Guilds are confused by his actions in Crocus. Meetings are being held among them in an effort to locate him, hoping he will choose to join their ranks. But that's not the most troubling part. Urza's eyes widened in alarm. What is then? Some Dark Guilds have begun to declare allegiance to him. His ability to fight against and suppress the Wizard Saints has made a significant impact over there. Tensions are rising, and it's only a matter of time before something explodes. Makarov's expression hardened, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on his shoulders. What do we do about it? Urza asked, her voice urgent and determined. Guildarts frowned, his jaw tightening. For now, he hasn't made any effort to reveal himself, or it's possible he's been hiding right under our noses, making it impossible for us to track him. Until we have more information, we are effectively powerless. Makarov opened his mouth to respond, but was abruptly interrupted when the lacrima on his desk began to glow with an eerie light. He arched an eyebrow, puzzled by the sudden activation. Guildarts shifted, a look of recognition dawning on his face. The Magic Council. Makarov activated the lacrima, and the image of Warad flickered into view. Warad, it's been a while, Makarov greeted, his tone welcoming but cautious. Likewise, Warad replied, his expression serious. Is something wrong? Makarov inquired, sensing the tension. Well, let's just say things are about to get a bit more interesting on your end, Warad said cryptically, his eyes betraying the weight of the news he carried. Makarov blinked, his brow furrowing in confusion. Huh, Naruto mused, glancing down at the portfolio cradled in his hands as he walked back toward his guild. A sense of relief washed over him. That wasn't as bad as I expected. Depends on your definition of bad. Naruto chuckled at Kurama's retort, shaking his head in amusement. As he approached the imposing metallic gate of his guild, he felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. He paused for a moment, inhaling deeply to savor the anticipation in the air. With a bright smile spreading across his face, he placed both palms against the cool, solid surface of the gate, and pushed it open. A gentle breeze rushed in, rustling the leaves around him and wrapping him in the refreshing embrace of the outside world. He closed his eyes, relishing the moment. We're going to have a lot of fun here, don't you think so, Kurama? He exclaimed, feeling an infectious enthusiasm bubbling within him. You got that right. Naruto opened his eyes and took in the sight before him. The guild building loomed ahead, a charming two-story structure crafted from sturdy wood, its design simple yet inviting. The sun bathed the building in a warm, golden glow, illuminating its rustic charm and giving it an almost ethereal quality. At that moment, the guild felt vibrant and alive, a beacon of camaraderie and adventure. His gaze shifted to the nameplate affixed above the entrance, the words "The Guardian's Haven" etched into the wood. A grin tugged at the corners of his lips as he read it aloud. The Guardian's Haven, how this is going to be a blast. With newfound determination, he stepped across the threshold, ready to embrace the challenges and joys that lay ahead. The door swung open, welcoming him into a world where he hoped to forge not just alliances, but lasting friendships and unforgettable memories. Chapter 5 Mysteries. The sun shone radiantly over the city, casting its warm glow across Fiori, and particularly over Crocus. The atmosphere buzzed with an inviting sense of opportunity, enveloping the citizens in a cocoon of hope. It was one of those days where the world felt perfectly aligned, where dreams seemed within reach, and a wave of optimism washed over everyone. That, however, was not the case for Naruto Uzumaki. He stood in an upper-floor room, staring discontentedly through the window. His brow furrowed in boredom and annoyance, his reflection a stark contrast to the vibrant day outside. An irritated expression settled on his face. Among the myriad thoughts swirling in his mind, one thing stood out clearly. Today was destined to be far from great. Descending the stairs to the ground floor, designed to resemble a cozy bar, he found himself gazing into the emptiness of the guild hall. With a heavy sigh, he bowed his head in defeat, the lively atmosphere outside only amplifying his feelings of isolation. Unfreaking believable, he muttered under his breath. Just calm down, Naruto. It's only the first week, Kurama. Naruto snapped, straightening with an exasperated scowl. The first week. How long have I been staring out this window like some damsel in distress? A whole week. And not a single person has bothered to check in to see what's happening here. Is this karma? Yeah, I don't think, Naruto scoffed, frustration boiling over. Makes perfect sense. She decides to pay me back for all the destruction, forgetting that I actually saved my home in the first place. Naruto, you know, you live your life fighting tooth and nail, convinced that everything will pay off in the end. Can life throw any more crap my way? You haven't ranted this much since Tucci closed down the ramen shop on your birthday. Naruto's expression darkened at the painful reminder. That was a dark day, Kurama. You shouldn't bring up those memories so casually. Oh, just lighten up. There are plenty of things you could be doing. Naruto blinked, curiosity piqued. Like what? You've just landed in a new dimension. One would think you'd want to explore and discover. Heh. Even back home, I rarely went anywhere. Traveling has never really been my thing. Besides, I just want to chill and relax for a moment. He sighed dramatically. I just came out of a war. For crying out loud, you're not one to sit around, Naruto. You have immense power. It deserves to be flexed. There are lands to conquer and enemies to vanquish. Naruto groaned, incredulous. Who uses vanquish these days? He grimaced, recalling the last time he'd given Kurama free rein within the seal, an experience that still haunted him. To distract himself from the pervasive boredom, Naruto began stacking a series of empty cups on the bar. Today was shaping up to be a truly miserable day. You know what will calm you down? Naruto raised an eyebrow. What? A joke. Silence enveloped the lonely guild as Naruto processed Kurama's words. If he concentrated hard enough, he could almost hear crickets chirping in the background. A joke. Yep. You're going to tell me a joke, Kurama? Absolutely. I've been working on this one for a while. It's pretty hilarious, if I do say so myself. Not that I doubt your comedic skills, Kurama, but I'm just not. Oh, just give it a try, you wimp. With a resigned sigh, Naruto relented. Fine, tell it. Yippee! Naruto blinked. Did you just... Nothing happened, Naruto. Kurama spoke with a deep, dramatic voice. Nothing, Naruto snorted, trying to suppress a grin. Why yeah, okay, get this. Hashirama was with Mito in their marital home, and she was about to give birth while Hashirama struggled to keep the seal intact. Are you telling the joke or am I? Oh okay, as I was saying, Mito said, stop it, Hashirama. I can handle this myself. And Hashirama responded, it's the 9 tails we're talking about. We can't take any half measures, Mito retorted. Oh, so you think I don't know how to do my job? Am I a half measure? And Hashirama was like, no. That's not what I meant, Mito. You're so smart and beautiful and powerful. Naruto rubbed his temples, the impending headache intensifying. I have a feeling this is going to take a while. Just get to the punchline. Basically, while they were arguing, I ripped out of the seal and slaughtered them all. A disturbed expression crossed Naruto's face. What the F? When I was done making a kebab out of the duo, I laid waste to Konoha, ensuring no offspring ever lived to tell the tale. Men, women, children. Ha 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 ha. The joke was on Konoha. Ha 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 ha. As Kurama erupted into an uncontrollable fit of laughter, Naruto could only stare in stunned silence, his mouth slightly agape as he tried to process what he had just heard. Kurama's laughter gradually subsided into deep chuckles. So, what do you think? Not bad for my first try, huh? Naruto gulped, still reeling. Wow. I mean wow. Yeah, speechless. Are you okay? Just then, a new voice broke through Naruto's stunned silence, causing him to tumble off his stool and crash onto the wooden floor. His hand instinctively struck the bottom of the stack he had been building, sending cups tumbling down onto him. The sound of clattering ceramic filled the air, eliciting laughter from the newcomer who had just entered the guild. Naruto snorted dismissively as he looked up, his eyes half-lidded in annoyance. Standing before him was a boy of short stature, his unruly orange hair sticking out in all directions like a sunbeam gone wild. He wore a simple black shirt paired with white shorts, and in his hand, he clutched a stick that looked like it had been carved by an amateur. The boy's brown eyes sparkled with mischief, a glint that only heightened Naruto's irritation. I can't believe I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, he thought, chastising himself internally. Can't believe you were the one who didn't sense him either. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. And what were you doing exactly? I was occupied. But I can tell this kid's going to be a handful. At least I like his orange hair. The boy stared at Naruto, perplexed by the strange man before him who seemed lost in thought. Are you really okay? He finally asked, concern creeping into his voice. I'm fine. Naruto snapped, irritation flaring. Why are you here? Suddenly, a realization struck him. Oh wait. You want to join my guild? His eyes lit up with enthusiasm, but the boy's nervous expression quickly dampened his excitement. You're a little young, but what the hell, I'd allow it. Naruto waved his hand dismissively, his enthusiasm undeterred. The boy opened his mouth, but Naruto cut him off. I'm still deciding on a guild motto, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. So until then, I hope you'll be patient. So, kid, who are you? I'm Esker, the boy muttered nervously, scratching the back of his head. And I'm not here to join your guild. A small frown creased Naruto's face as he let out a defeated sigh and walked over to his stool, slumping onto it. So, Naruto arched an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. What are you doing here then? Esker looked around, blinking with interest. Well, I see no one else here apart from you. Naruto gave him a dry look. That doesn't answer my question. It's because this guild is new, huh? Esker mused, a hint of realization lighting up his eyes. Makes sense. Naruto clenched his jaw, his patience wearing thin. Answer the question. Why haven't you taken any missions yet if you want guild members? Esker replied matter-of-factly. Naruto blinked, caught off guard. Huh? Esker stared at him incredulously. You didn't know? What have you been doing, living under a rock? What do you mean? Naruto asked, genuinely confused. New guilds need to take missions to boost their popularity. You can't just sit here and expect people to flock to you. Most guild masters start by completing missions. It shows strength, and strength attracts people. Makes sense, Naruto said, nodding slowly as he contemplated the boy's words. You know a lot for a kid, I guess. Esker shrugged nonchalantly, but internally he thought, what a dumbass. So you're saying I need to take a mission to attract guild members? Naruto's face lit up with a grin. Karma doesn't have it out for me after all. Esker laughed lightly. Well, as for why I'm here, Naruto raised an eyebrow, intrigued as the boy reached into his back pocket and produced a rumpled piece of paper. I have a mission, he announced, his expression suddenly serious. Naruto regarded him dryly. I'm guessing that's why you brought up the discussion. Exactly. I wanted to help you help me, Esker said earnestly. Shrewd move. Naruto reached out for the paper, curious. What's the mission about? Esker handed him the paper, and Naruto scanned its contents, noting the childish writing and the vague description. It's about my village, Esker said, folding his arms tightly. Something's wrong there, and I need your help. Naruto raised an eyebrow, still reading. If it's as serious as you say, why isn't there an official posting? Because the stupid old man says we can handle it. Esker replied, anger bubbling to the surface, earning a sharp look from Naruto. He looked downcast. My dad is ill, and I can't wait for whatever plan he's concocting. I want you to heal him, and if you can, save my village. Naruto sighed, the weight of the request settling heavily on his shoulders. So I'm guessing there's no money involved? I can't go to any other guild. They wouldn't even look me in the eye. I have no money, and I'm out of supplies. To them, this is an S-rank mission, and they're not willing to risk their lives. I would have gone to Fairy Tail and Magnolia because I heard their understanding, but I have no way to get there. Honestly, you're my last hope. Naruto studied the boy, the determination in his eyes igniting a familiar spark in him. Honestly, me and my hero complex. So, Esker said, looking pleadingly up at Naruto, would you help me? Naruto smirked, a familiar thrill coursing through him. Sure thing, what was your name again? Esker, but really? Esker's eyes widened in surprise. You will? Sure. Naruto placed his fist forward, and the boy eagerly bumped it, a huge smile breaking across his face. Awesome, you're one excitable kid, aren't you? Just then, Naruto's stomach growled, breaking the moment of excitement, and prompting an embarrassed blush from Esker. Naruto chuckled. Come on. Let's get some food in you. I know the perfect ramen spot. Esker hesitated. Yeah, I kinda don't like ramen. For a brief moment, the guild seemed to darken, the air heavy with tension. What did you say? Naruto asked, a serious look in his eyes. Esker gulped, suddenly anxious. Was it my response about ramen, or was it because I'm not grateful? Oh yeah, he's probably broke. No wonder ramen is all he could afford. I can't afford to screw this up. I'm just kidding. I love ramen. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Esker, then a grin spread across his face. I knew it. Ramen's awesome. Oh okay then. Esker blinked, still trying to process the whirlwind of events. What's your name? Naruto beamed, his spirit lifted. Naruto Uzumaki. Is this for real? Natsu exclaimed, his eyes wide as he scrutinized the letter in his hands. Across from him, Urza sighed, exuding a mixture of frustration and resignation. Of course it's real. It's from the council, she replied, perched on a stool in the bustling guild hall, her expression serious. Gray folded his arms, his brow furrowing in thought. We should inform Master about this immediately. I don't think it's something we need to worry about, Lucy interjected, glancing at the letter that had sparked such concern. I'm sure it's related to how Urza survived. Urza's gaze grew distant as she recalled that fateful day. I don't remember anything from that day until I woke up. Everything is just blank, she admitted, her voice tinged with a hint of frustration. The real issue is how they will interpret this, Gray pointed out, his tone somber. Natsu, however, couldn't contain his fiery spirit. Flames flickered around his fists, illuminating his determined expression. Who cares what they say or want? The truth is the truth. If they don't believe us, they can kiss my ass. Gray sighed, shaking his head at his boisterous friend. Yeah, provoking the Magic Council isn't exactly our best strategy. When have they ever not been against us? Natsu retorted, his frustration evident. Lucy couldn't help but chuckle at his unwavering enthusiasm. He has a point, she conceded, offering a supportive smile. Anyways, Urza interjected, her voice steady as she regained their attention. Master isn't here right now, and I need to address this as soon as possible. I'll head to Era. Do you really think that's a good idea, Urza? Natsu asked, arching an eyebrow with concern. This situation is different. It's much more serious. Although he felt strongly about the matter, he recognized that the final decision rested with her. It's the wisest move we have at the moment, Urza affirmed with conviction. Handling this promptly is better than letting it linger and potentially causing more problems down the line. Natsu stamped his foot on the guild's wooden floor, determination radiating from him. I'll follow you then. So will we, Gray added with a smirk, earning a grateful smile from Urza. I appreciate the support, but someone needs to stay here and inform Master when he returns, she reminded them, her tone firm yet understanding. You have no problems there. Urza turned to see Mira Jane smiling warmly at her. Mira? Urza inquired, her surprise evident. You guys should go ahead. I'll inform Master as soon as he arrives, Mira Jane offered, her voice reassuring. Thanks a lot, Mira. Natsu shouted, pumping his fist in the air with infectious enthusiasm. Yosh! Let's head to Era. Calm down a bit, you hyperactive flame brain, Gray replied dryly, rolling his eyes. We need to prepare first. What are you, a lady? Natsu scoffed, dismissing Gray's practicality. Let's get moving already. Urza smiled at her friends, her heart swelling with appreciation for their unwavering support. Sure thing, she said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but with her friends by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. A while later, Makarov stepped into the guild, his gaze sweeping over the sparse gathering of mages scattered throughout the hall. He arched an eyebrow in mild surprise. Everyone's busy today, he observed, a hint of curiosity lacing his voice. Yup, Mary Jane replied cheerfully, diligently cleaning the cups around her desk. Most of the members decided to head out on missions, so it's unusually quiet today. Makarov chuckled, a satisfied smile creeping onto his face. Can't say I mind that development. Mary Jane let out a soft laugh before her expression turned thoughtful. Oh, right. Urza was summoned by the Magic Council, and Natsu and the others decided to accompany her. Strange, Makarov mused, scratching his beard thoughtfully. I would have expected to be notified about a meeting like that. I highly doubt that, Mary Jane replied, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. Considering how often you ignore those letters, they're all a waste of time, Makarov defended, shaking his head with a dismissive wave of his hand. Honestly, most of them are for ridiculous reasons. The thought of traveling back and forth to Era is hardly my idea of a good time. He nodded sagely, as if this settled the matter. Perhaps you're right, Mary Jane shrugged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. After all, you are getting quite up there in age. Makarov's eyebrow twitched at the comment, a sarcastic laugh escaping his lips. Ha ha. He looked around, relishing the unusual calm that enveloped the guild. Why isn't it usually like this? With no Natsu around, there are no fights, which means peace reigns. But it's not truly fairy tale without that chaos, she countered, her tone light but thoughtful, as if weighing the essence of their guild against the backdrop of tranquility. Tell that to my wallet, Makarov retorted, a wry smile forming as he gestured toward his empty pockets. I'd gladly trade a bit of excitement for a little more coin. Mary Jane chuckled softly, the warmth of their conversation enveloping them like the familiar embrace of the guild itself. In that moment, the absence of their usual raucous energy didn't feel quite so heavy. It felt like a brief interlude, a moment of calm before the inevitable storm of laughter and camaraderie returned. Holy cow! This never stops being awesome, Esker exclaimed, his wide eyes glued to a mesmerizing display in the heart of Crocus, the bustling capital of Fiori. Naruto, standing a few paces behind him, felt a wave of annoyance wash over him as he observed the boy's enraptured expression. The city was a vibrant hub of tourist attractions, with magical performances captivating audiences at every hour of the day. Today, a skilled performer was manipulating water, crafting delicate shapes that shimmered in the sunlight, and Esker couldn't seem to tear his gaze away. Yeah, I hope you remember that your dad is dying, Naruto said, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He tried to inject some seriousness into the moment, but Esker was lost in wonder. I didn't see the need to go out much before, Esker replied, his voice filled with excitement. Everything I needed was back home. I never knew stuff like this existed outside. This is incredible. Sure, but Naruto's tone was flat, his patience waning. It might be more important to focus on your father's health than some third-rate trick. It's not that impressive, you know. Esker's eyes widened in shock at Naruto's bluntness. I'm so sorry, he stammered, suddenly sheepish. I don't think you need to apologize to me, Naruto replied, eyebrows knitting in confusion. It's not you I'm apologizing to, you senseless jerk. Esker shot back, his frustration rising. Naruto glanced over Esker's shoulder to find the performer visibly disheartened. A dry look crossed his face as he realized what was unfolding. You're kidding. Esker ignored Naruto's sarcasm and turned his attention back to the performer, who was fighting back tears. I'm really sorry he doesn't appreciate true art when he sees it, he said gently. What you're doing is amazing. I know what he meant, the performer sniffled, his voice thick with emotion. I always wanted to be a mage, but that dream slipped through my fingers. All I can do now are these party tricks. As the crowd continued to gather, Naruto felt a wave of unease wash over him. The growing number of spectators began to cast dark looks in his direction, and he couldn't help but laugh nervously. Tears streamed down the performer's cheeks as he bit his lip, the weight of his words heavy in the air. My father sees me as a failure, he confessed, and this drew sympathetic looks from onlookers, further exacerbating Naruto's discomfort. Is this really happening? Naruto thought, shaking his head slightly. Maybe it's because you're a man performing at a tourist attraction. It's going to be alright, Esker reassured the man, offering a warm smile that was met with nods of approval from the crowd, while Naruto could only muster looks of disbelief. Suddenly, a man from the crowd approached Naruto, tears glistening in his eyes. How could you be so monstrous? He accused, his voice shaking with emotion. Naruto blinked in confusion, his eyebrow twitching in disbelief. What in the world? A woman stepped forward, indignation on her face. It's a good thing your son knows how to care. Thank the heavens he didn't turn out like you. Wah, Naruto began, only to be cut off by the collective murmurs from the crowd. I'm sure he got that kindness from his mother. There's no way the boy inherited it from you, brute, the woman continued, her voice laced with disdain. Esker, sensing the growing tension, sprang to Naruto's defense, a mischievous glint in his eye. It's not his fault. All eyes turned to Esker, and Naruto felt a wave of dread wash over him. I don't like the way this is going, Esker sniffled, putting on an exaggerated pout. He's a hero, and he tries to be a good dad when he's not busy saving the world and stuff. The crowd exchanged suspicious glances, murmurs of he lies to his kid? Unbelievable, echoing around them. My mom tries to take care of me now that they're separated, Esker continued, his voice softening. But it's been hard on him. That's why we're trying to reconnect and stuff. Naruto stared blankly at Esker, his face twitching in disbelief. You little brat, Esker looked downcast. I'm sorry if he's trouble for you. Alright, that's it. Naruto snapped, frustration bubbling over. He marched toward Esker, his scowl deepening. We're getting out of here, taking you home, and doing whatever I'm supposed to do. The crowd gasped in unison, a wave of shock rippling through them. Oh, and shut up. You clueless idiots. Naruto added, throwing up his hands in exasperation. Esker snorted, the tension easing just a little. He can't even curse right, he thought, but his eyes sparkled with mischief. I made one comment to the guy about finding a life, not about living in his father's shadow. And you all gang up on me. Naruto continued, his voice rising. Actually, the performer interjected, his voice trembling. My dad's house burned down, killing him inside. What the hell? Naruto gasped, his expression shifting from irritation to shock. And your mother? She has a heart condition, the performer replied, his gaze falling to the ground. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair, his deadpan expression betraying his disbelief. Of course she does. With a resigned shake of his head, he grabbed Esker by the shoulder. We're out of here. In a flash of yellow light, they vanished, leaving the crowd blinking in stunned silence. It had been a strange day, to say the least. Esker lurched forward, the contents of his stomach spilling onto the sidewalk in a hasty eruption. Naruto stood nearby, a savage smirk plastered on his face, reveling in the moment. Serves you right for underestimating me, he thought, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. The boy groaned as he pushed himself up from the ground, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. What the hell was that? He exclaimed, his voice tinged with both indignation and awe. Teleportation at its finest, Naruto replied, puffing out his chest with pride. He couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment, enjoying the thrill of surprising his companion. Why don't you, I don't know, give a little warning before you do that? It was awesome, by the way. Esker retorted, a mix of annoyance and excitement bubbling in his tone. He was still catching his breath, the adrenaline of the sudden journey coursing through him. Serves you right, Naruto muttered, shrugging his shoulders nonchalantly. And thanks for the compliment. Esker scrunched up his face. Who hurt you when you were a kid? Don't even get me started, Naruto chuckled. Urza Scarlet, please step forward. Urza moved deliberately to the center of the imposing meeting hall, her heart racing as she glanced up. This wasn't the full Magic Council. Seated before her were the three most powerful figures of Ishgar, Warod Sequin, Hyperion, and Wolfheim. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken tension, and a shroud of uncertainty hung in the air. Whatever was unfolding here, she felt completely unprepared for it. So Hyperion began, his voice smooth yet commanding. How are you doing? Urza blinked, caught off guard by the question. I'm fine, I guess, she replied, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within her. We know about the predicament you faced on that day, Warod interjected, a hint of amusement breaking through his serious demeanor. Makarov was quite upset. A silent chuckle escaped Warod, which felt oddly out of place in the charged atmosphere. Hyperion's expression shifted, becoming more serious. Let's get to the point. We need to know if you remember anything that happened after that day. We've hit a wall in our investigation. What are you talking about? Urza's confusion deepened. To be frank, Urza, Wolfheim elaborated, his tone grave. You died. I know that more than anyone. Instinctively, Urza placed her right hand over her chest, where she could still feel the phantom ache of loss. What we're trying to convey is that we need to understand how you survived. If you have any recollection of what occurred, it's crucial for us. We cannot fathom why he would kill you and then return you. What purpose could that serve? Urza's brow furrowed, anger flaring within her. Are you implying that I'm working for him? We didn't say that, Hyperion responded, though the hesitation in his voice suggested otherwise. What else could you mean? Her frustration erupted. Of course, I wouldn't have survived and come back if I was working for him. Urza, calm down. Warad's voice cut through her fury, prompting her to take a step back in surprise. The calmness of his demeanor was disarming, a stark contrast to the tempest raging inside her. She took a deep breath, slowly regaining her composure, as she realized whom she was addressing. A wave of shame washed over her, and she looked down, grappling with her own emotions. Lately, she felt like a stranger in her own skin. I don't remember anything, she admitted quietly, her fists slowly clenching at her side. To be honest, her voice cracked slightly, revealing the deep-seated frustration she felt. It bugs me every day. Hyperion's expression softened slightly, his eyes narrowing in thought before he flashed a brief, appreciative smile. Thank you, Urza Scarlet. We have all we need. Urza bowed her head slightly in acknowledgement before walking out of the hall, leaving the three wizard saints behind her. What was that all about? Wolfheim turned to Hyperion, who was thoughtfully tapping his index finger on the desk. She's honest with us, and that's the worrying part, Hyperion remarked, a grave tone entering his voice. You think he's not done with her? Wolfheim asked, concern etched on his face. Without a doubt, Hyberian replied, his conviction unwavering. I suspect she holds the key to locating him, but I'm not entirely sure what that entails. As Urza walked through the dimly lit halls, her mind raced with questions. Why had he brought her back? Why return her to the guild? And why was everything still so blank? The notion that she could be unknowingly working for him gnawed at her insides, making her feel like a puppet without a purpose. Exhausted, she leaned against one of the cold stone pillars, the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her. Each day, she had scrutinized her actions, hoping to uncover some clue, some sign that he had been manipulating her. Yet she found nothing amiss, just the persistent feeling of apprehension. Deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. Whoever that man was, he had done something to her, something she feared would unravel her sense of self. Pushing through her turmoil, she finally approached a room where she saw Natsu, Happy, Gray, and Lucy, their faces alight with joy. Perhaps she was simply being paranoid. After all, they hadn't noticed anything wrong with her. Natsu, sniffing the air, turned as she entered. Well? He asked, an eager glint in his eye. Are we burning something up? Urza chuckled softly, the warmth of her friends momentarily chasing away her doubts. Maybe I really am just being paranoid. An elderly woman sat quietly in her chair, her curious violet eyes fixed on a small bird perched on a tree branch just outside her home. With each flutter of its wings, she felt a sense of wonder, as if the bird held secrets of the world beyond her reach. She leaned forward slightly, hoping to glean insight into its activities. The bird suddenly darted upward, breaking free from its branch and into the expanse of the azure sky. Erasing the distance between them, its wings glimmered in the sunlight before it vanished from her sight. She pondered where it had flown, imagining the privileged corner of the world it now occupied, far removed from the mundane realities of her life. For most of her 85 years, Anna had been a widow, a constant figure in the town where she had spent her days. Saying she knew every nook and cranny of the vicinity would be an understatement. She had witnessed families come and go, watched buildings rise and fall, each change etching memories into her mind. Anna. The sudden interruption of her thoughts pulled her back to the present. It was old Simon, a fellow elder who held a baby close to his chest. They were of similar age, two remnants of a bygone era, and one of the few who had stayed behind to witness the town blossom from the moment of its birth. Simon, like her, lived an ordinary life, seemingly part of the relentless cycle of the world. They had never sought out grand achievements or worried about the daily trivialities that consumed so many around them. Their existence was not one of purpose but of simple contentment, flowing through life without the weight of expectations. Yet they found solace in their shared acceptance of life's rhythms, never feeling unfulfilled. Their lives unfolded without the pressures that burdened others. That was, until the day the sky opened. Even in Crocus, they had felt the rippling effects of that extraordinary event, despite not experiencing its full impact. The air had crackled with an energy she had never known, an inexplicable connection to something greater. In that moment, the world had revealed itself as an expansive tapestry, each life, including their own, just a tiny thread contributing to a grander design. On that day, she had felt as if she, too, were the bird she had just observed, soaring freely through the vast sky. The boundaries she had never felt compelled to challenge opened up before her, enveloping her in the boundless possibilities that lay above. It was then that she sensed the very presence of a god, filling her with a profound sense of awe. It's time, Simon muttered, breaking through her reverie. With gentle hands, she cradled the baby and nuzzled it against her chest, feeling its warmth. How are the people doing? She inquired, her voice laced with concern. They're still in their condition. Neither progressing nor deteriorating. They're just unconscious, he replied, a somber note in his tone. Whatever is plaguing them isn't something ordinary, she asserted, her brow furrowing. Something magical? Simon ventured, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Definitely, she affirmed, her intuition guiding her. As if in response, the bird returned, landing gracefully on the grass beneath them. It began to peck at the lush green lawn, its chirping mingling with the sounds of other birds filling the atmosphere, creating a symphony of life. Let's go. Simon placed his hands on the chair, preparing to wheel her away to a different location. As Anna's eyes widened, a serene calm enveloped her body. Her violet pupils shimmered as she felt the bird's gaze meet hers, a strange connection forming in that brief moment. Simon, noticing her tense frame, glanced at her in puzzlement. Is something wrong? He asked, concern etching his features. She smiled faintly, her gaze drifting toward the sky, curiosity flickering in her expression. Someone's coming. Just then, Naruto stepped into the village, confusion clouding his features as he surveyed his surroundings. Something's wrong here, he muttered, sensing the strange atmosphere. Esker, walking nearby, frowned deeply, his expression heavy with the weight of unspoken knowledge. You don't know the half of it, he replied, his voice low and foreboding, leaving Naruto to wonder just what he had stumbled into. Chapter 6. Waking Nightmares. Alberton was a quaint little town, its population comprised mostly of the elderly and young. Death, curiously infrequent, lingered in the air like an uninvited guest, casting a perplexing shadow over the community. In the local hospital and the nearby prison, an alarming number of coffins lay ready, waiting for the inevitable. Naruto found himself deeply attuned to the essence of the place, able to absorb the town's atmosphere with a single breath. However, the air was heavy with a pervasive corruption, magic that seemed to have no discernible source. It was as though a primal event had unleashed a dark force, one that infected its inhabitants gradually, one by one, until a full-blown outbreak became impossible to ignore. This was far worse than a mere illness. It was an insidious manifestation of dark magic that had taken root in the very fabric of Alberton. As he navigated the streets, he could feel the weight of death surrounding the hospital and the prison. If he were an undertaker here, he thought grimly, he would likely be living in splendor, surrounded by his morbidly thriving business. What happened here? Naruto murmured as he walked past the buildings, taking in the town's living conditions. Despite the somber air, Alberton was not without its charm. The buildings stood in good repair, and a central park, along with essential amenities, offered a semblance of normalcy. That's why I came to get you, Esker replied, moving swiftly through the throngs of townsfolk. We have no idea what's wrong here. The aura surrounding the village gave it a grimy, unsettling appearance. A foul stench permeated the streets, evoking an instinctual sense of dread that seemed to hang over the town like a dark cloud. Naruto wondered how these people continued to live here. Were they oblivious to the sinister magic that enveloped them, or had they simply grown numb to it? As he observed the townspeople, he noted that a few who appeared uninfected went about their lives as if nothing were amiss. Some cast curious glances in his direction before shrugging off the encounter and resuming their activities. It was a strange town, that much was clear. Esker led him through the winding streets, and they halted before an unassuming door. A soft knock echoed in the stillness, and Naruto watched as Esker waited expectantly. The door creaked open to reveal an elderly woman, likely in her 60s, her crimson eyes betraying a profound exhaustion and unspoken pain. Her long, white hair framed a face etched with worry, and upon seeing Esker she gasped. Esker, hey mom. She enveloped him in a tight embrace, her relief palpable as she squeezed him against her. Esker winced slightly at the strength of her hug but couldn't suppress the smile that broke across his face as he buried his head in her shoulder. When she finally released him, her expression shifted to one of anger tinged with concern. Where have you been? We've been searching for you everywhere. Esker looked down, guilt washing over him. He felt the weight of her worry pressing down on him, and he bit his lip, the orange locks of his hair falling into his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I just had to do something. Her expression softened, and she hugged him again, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. It's okay. You're safe, and that's what matters. But you still have to tell me where you've been. Naruto observed the tender exchange, a fond smile gracing his features. A mother's love, he thought, was a powerful thing. Releasing Esker, Yuki finally noticed Naruto standing beside them. So, who's this? She asked, curiosity lighting up her expression. Oh yeah? Esker beamed, his earlier shame dissipating. He's a mage I hired to help with the illness. A mage you hired? Yup. Naruto let out a soft chuckle at the incredulous tone of Yuki's voice and bowed slightly in greeting. Good evening. I'm Naruto. Evening, Naruto-san, she replied, her smile genuine. I'm Esker's mother, Yuki. I could tell, Naruto laughed, gesturing toward Esker. He mentioned there's a problem he'd like me to look into. Maybe he forgot to mention, Yuki shot a pointed look at the now sheepish Esker, that we cannot afford a mage right now. Oh, he did. Yuki blinked in surprise, looking at Naruto. He did? Yup, he confirmed, maintaining a playful smile. Well, this is interesting, she said, her curiosity piqued. A mage who does missions for free. That's quite rare. Naruto grinned. I guess you could say you're lucky, huh? Sure. Do you mind if I come in? Naruto ruffled his spiky yellow hair, glancing around. We have some things to discuss. Of course, Yuki replied, stepping aside to let them enter. I just finished dinner. Great. With that, the three of them stepped into the modest home, the air heavy with unspoken concerns but also tinged with the warmth of reunion. Naruto glanced across the table at Yuki, who wore a scowl as she observed her son devouring his meal with unrestrained enthusiasm. Esker's face contorted into a grimace when Yuki flicked his forehead playfully, eliciting a wince from him. Eat gently, we have a guest, she admonished, a blend of amusement and exasperation in her voice. Naruto chuckled at Esker's exaggerated reaction, finding it reminiscent of his own youthful exuberance, though he suspected he had been even more unruly at that age. So, if I understand correctly, Yuki began, her tone a mix of surprise and curiosity, Esker traveled all the way to Crocus and met you in your guild? Yeah, I just started the guild recently, Naruto replied, leaning back in his chair. So I'm still working on building the member base. Yuki arched an eyebrow, a smile breaking across her face. Oh, a Guildmaster? That's impressive. I've heard that the council doesn't just hand out those titles to anyone. Well, I try my best, Naruto said with a relaxed grin. Anyway, Esker filled me in on your situation. He managed to convince me to come and see what I could do, and from what I sensed when I arrived he paused, his brow furrowing in contemplation. Something's really wrong here. Yuki leaned forward, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and apprehension. You figured out what's wrong? Not specifically, more like a general impression, he clarified. Ah, well that's something, she replied thoughtfully. You might want to share your findings with Anna and Simon. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Who are they? Yuki straightened, her expression shifting to one of earnestness. They're two of the oldest residents in town. Anna was born here and holds a significant rank. She's essentially our leader. Simon is her husband. Got it, Naruto said, folding his hands together. And what actions have they taken to combat this situation? Mostly, they've directed anyone who shows symptoms to the hospital while trying to uncover the root of the issue. Many of us have been pushing to hire a mage, but the cost is beyond our means. With the way missions are classified, ours would likely fall into the high-tier category. I see, Naruto mused, considering her words. The situation mirrored the mission classifications in the elemental nations. Missions were categorized based on numerous criteria: potential resistance, type of enemy, level of danger, and other factors. This typically determined whether a mission was rated as S, A, B, C, or D rank. Given that the village was grappling with a mysterious outbreak claiming lives, it was clear this situation didn't fall under low-risk classifications. Still, something felt off. Yuki continued, oblivious to his inner thoughts. Our town relies heavily on tourism. We depend on visitors to boost our economy, but far too much money has already been spent in the futile search for a cure. Naruto nodded, a contemplative expression on his face. He understood that before he could attempt to remedy the situation, he needed to grasp the nature of the affliction and address it directly. Otherwise, any efforts would be fruitless. I need to get to the hospital, he stated, determination evident in his tone. Esker let out a contented sigh as he polished off his meal, then shot a curious glance at the untouched plates in front of Naruto and Yuki. He had completely tuned out the conversation, already relishing the thought of devouring his mother's delicious cooking. That's not as simple as it sounds, Yuki interjected, her brow furrowing as Esker began clearing the plates, amusement dancing in Naruto's eyes. The hospital is currently under quarantine. To see the patients, you'll need to wear a special suit to prevent contamination. Securing one requires approval from Anna. Yuki walked over to the sink, rinsing the utensils with practiced efficiency. But I don't think anything could stop you, considering you're a mage. You should be able to get what you need quickly. I appreciate that, Naruto replied, a hint of gratitude in his voice. If you wouldn't mind, could you direct me to Anna and Simon? Absolutely, Yuki said, a smile returning to her face. This town isn't too complex once you know the main structures. Let me draw you a quick map, and then I'll guide you to Anna's. With that, she reached for a scrap of paper and a pen, her eyes glinting with purpose. As Naruto watched her sketch out the layout of the town, he felt a renewed sense of determination. He was ready to face the challenges ahead and help Alberton reclaim its peace. Memories. What do I think of them? They are beautiful stories woven over time, fragments of our lives that eventually dissipate, evaporating into nothingness. Yet they leave behind fleeting reminders, lone thoughts striving to anchor us to moments we should never forget. Fear, anger, sadness, joy, a host of emotions all bottled up in the fragile vessel of memory. But memories are supposed to be weak echoes of the past. So why do I still see everything so vividly, the horror, the pain, day after day? It's a wonder, really. Aren't they meant to fade with time, allowing us to live without the burden of what once was? Instead, it feels like a walking nightmare, a relentless specter shadowing my every step, making me dread what the night might hold. I still remember her vividly. Her mercury-red hair cascaded over her shoulders like a shimmering waterfall, and her lips, honey-sweet and soft as lilacs, were always ready to break into a smile. The warmth of her bubbly outlook could brighten the darkest of days, and her soothing voice was like a balm, calming the fire that burned within me. It was love at first sight. The way she scrunched her nose when she spotted me sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach, making me question everything I thought I knew about love's existence. Memories, huh? They can be painfully vivid. It felt as if our lives were intricately planned, our destinies preordained. All we needed to do was live them out, and I had no qualms about doing just that. It was a day like any other, a day meant for us to spend together. All I had to do was step away for a moment, but then, Arthur, the voice sliced through his reverie like a knife. Arthur was a middle-aged man with wavy midnight black hair that fell to his shoulders. His face, pointed at the chin, was framed by dull blue eyes that were currently fixated on a mug of alcohol, the swirling liquid within mirroring the chaos in his mind. He shook his head, attempting to clear the haze clouding his vision. Arthur, the voice called again, pulling him back into reality. He turned to see a woman with shoulder-length black hair, her two distinct horns framing her face. Her piercing purple eyes held an impassive gaze as she regarded him. It's happening again, isn't it? Your memories, Arthur grunted in response, continuing to stare at the swirling liquid before him. They were seated in an empty bar, the dim light casting shadows across the weathered wooden surfaces. The woman reached for his drink, and he scoffed, irritation bubbling beneath the surface. Tell me, Scylla, have you ever lost anyone close to you? A strange question to ask me, Scylla replied, her tone dry as the cup mysteriously vanished from his grasp. We have work to do. Drowning yourself in alcohol will solve nothing. It will only lead to unnecessary complications. Arthur shot her a sideways glance, clearly inebriated. For me or for you? For us, Scylla stated firmly, her eyes narrowing. A new guest has arrived in town. A mage, probably. Whoever it is will meet the same fate as the others, Arthur replied dismissively, rising from his seat and making his way toward the door. When the process is complete, I just hope Tartaros fulfills their end of the bargain. No matter how foolish it is to believe that you'll keep your word. Scylla arched an eyebrow. You don't trust us. Arthur paused at the door, a bitter smile creeping onto his lips. I'm not an idiot, Scylla. You'd probably kill me once this is over. A slight smirk graced her face. Perhaps you might be a worthy addition to the Demon Gates after all. Her curiosity was evident. Then why are you still helping us? Arthur laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the empty bar. He pulled a cigarette from his pocket, lighting it with a flick of his finger. As he inhaled, a cloud of smoke escaped his lips, the distant and lost expression on his face hinting at the turmoil within. What else would I be doing? We need time, Scylla continued, ignoring his sardonic comment as she fixed her gaze on him. The process, although nearing completion, will still take time. Whoever this mage is must not discover our presence. The spell leaves no trace of us, Arthur replied, exhaling smoke. We could stroll through the streets, and no one would be the wiser. Well, apart from your horns, of course. We don't tolerate mistakes, Scylla muttered, moving closer to him. We won't allow any slip-ups. As she reached the door, she cast him a brief glance before passing him. If you mess up, you'd better take matters into your own hands before we find you. Anna sat in a private section of the hospital, perched in a wheelchair, her posture regal yet weary. She gazed intently at Dr. Hayashi, who stood before her, his face partially obscured by a mask. Simon, her devoted partner, lingered behind her, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. So, what have you managed to deduce, Hayashi? Anna inquired, her tone steady yet laced with anticipation. The doctor let out a heavy sigh, sinking onto the edge of a nearby bed, clearly fatigued. It's only been a few hours since your last visit, he replied, rubbing his temples in frustration. We're faced with puzzle after puzzle. Whatever this affliction is, Anna, it's beyond my current capabilities to unravel. Anna nodded slowly, humming thoughtfully at the grim reality they faced. We really are caught between a rock and a hard place, aren't we? Evacuation is out of the question, Dr. Hayashi explained, folding his arms tightly across his chest. We don't have a clear understanding of who in the village is infected. Our team is currently developing a testing method for the strain, but thus far, our efforts have yielded no results. Perhaps the Magic Council would take an interest in our situation. Simon shook his head decisively. From what I've gathered, they seem far more preoccupied with matters in other realms. Dr. Hayashi nodded in agreement. It's the visitor. Our predicament, according to them, can be managed by hiring mages, Simon added, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. The doctor's expression darkened as he contemplated the implications. It must be that dire then. We wouldn't be able to identify the actual perpetrators behind this outbreak, Simon murmured, his brow furrowing in concern. This town welcomes new visitors every day. Well, not recently, but whoever is responsible could very well be living among us, perhaps even right beneath our noses. We're acutely aware of that, Anna interjected with a slight smile, a glimmer of resilience shining through her worry. Please, Hayashi, keep us informed, will you? At the slightest breakthrough. I understand, he replied, a note of reassurance in his tone. I will inform you as soon as I have any updates. Thank you very much, Anna said warmly, gratitude radiating from her expression as Simon began to wheel her away. As they navigated the sterile passageways of the hospital, Anna glanced through the glass windows into the patient rooms, her heart heavy with empathy for those suffering. The muted sounds of distant machines and hushed voices filled the air, painting a somber picture of the ongoing crisis. What do we do now, Anna? Simon asked, his voice barely above a whisper as she closed her eyes in contemplation. We need to find a solution to this, or we risk becoming the village that invites destruction, warranting an investigation by the Magic Council. I've never been a fan of their politics, Anna sighed, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Even back in our youth. It's astonishing how time passes, yet so little seems to change. Is that a problem? Simon inquired, sensing the melancholy in her tone. No, Anna replied, her smile softening as she looked up at him fondly. It's been perfect, in its own way. Just take me home. I need to continue my work. Simon nodded, a renewed sense of purpose igniting within him. He began to wheel her gently toward the exit. We'll be home soon. Naruto and Yuki trudged along the soft, damp moss of the forest path, each step muffled by the lush greenery beneath them. The gentle rustle of leaves, swaying with the wind, felt like a soothing lullaby, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. As they walked, Naruto could sense the tranquil aura enveloping the forest. It was as if they had stepped into a serene sanctuary, a stark contrast to the nearby town plagued by illness and despair. Yuki led the way, guiding him through a narrow passageway until they were greeted by a quaint cottage nestled at the edge of a vibrant green lawn. The weather-resistant slat cottage stood in peaceful solitude, its modest charm accentuated by a small orchard of colorful flowers that danced in the light breeze. Overhead, the shingles on the roof were securely fastened, and a magnificent tree loomed above the house, casting a comforting shade that seemed to cradle the entire vicinity. Are you sure this is the right place? Naruto arched an eyebrow at the unassuming home before him. It doesn't look like a residence for a village leader. Absolutely, Yuki replied, her eyes sparkling with warmth as she gazed at the building. It may seem small, but this region is one of the most peaceful places you could ever find. From the smile on your face, it seems you've already felt its charm. She inhaled deeply, savoring the fresh, floral-scented air. Look at the nature surrounding us. It's as if the world itself carved out this haven just for them. Naruto couldn't help but smile at her words, finding himself in agreement. The energy of this place felt balanced and harmonious, almost as if the infection plaguing the town had chosen to keep its distance from this serene enclave. They should be inside, Yuki remarked, her expression brightening. But I need to head back. Esuka's asleep and alone. Are you sure you'll be okay walking back alone? Naruto asked, concern etching his features as he glanced up at the dimming sky. It's getting dark. Thanks for your concern, Naruto-san, but I can manage. Remember, we're dealing with an illness, not bandits or any of those other dangers. She offered him a reassuring smile. Naruto chuckled softly. Well, if you say so. Thanks for your help, Yuki-san. Anytime, she replied before turning to retrace her steps through the passageway they had come from. Once she was out of sight, Naruto summoned a clone and signaled it to follow her, ensuring she returned safely to Esker. Pleased with his precaution, Naruto shifted his attention back to the cottage. Well then, he murmured to himself. He walked up to the door and knocked gently, the sound echoing in the stillness of the evening. After a brief moment, he heard the shuffling of footsteps, and the door creaked open to reveal Simon, who stood before him with an appraising expression. Before Naruto could introduce himself, Simon's keen gaze assessed him. He frowned thoughtfully, his wrinkled brow furrowing. You're not from around here, are you? No, Naruto replied, tilting his head slightly in respect. I'm Naruto, a mage hired to assist your town. A look of confusion flickered across Simon's face, followed by a slight frown. I don't recall either me or Anna hiring any mages recently. Or did I? This old mind of mine, his voice trailed off, lost in thought. No, it was Yuki's son, Esker, who bumped into my guild and requested my help, Naruto clarified. The old man grunted, his expression shifting to one of surprise. Esker? That little shrimp has been out of our good graces lately. So he's back. Nearly gave me a heart attack, the nerve of that kid. Wait a moment. Simon blinked, realization dawning on him. You said your guild? Naruto nodded, a hint of pride in his eyes. Yes, a Guildmaster, Simon mused, relief washing over his features. Perhaps this could change the tide of our circumstances. Naruto smiled sheepishly. Let's hope so. Come inside. I'll go check on Anna, Simon said, stepping aside to allow Naruto entry into the cozy cottage. So, Simon tells me you are not only a mage, but also a Guildmaster, Anna remarked from her wheelchair, her voice carrying a hint of curiosity. She faced away from Naruto, who had just stepped into her home. The cottage was a modest yet inviting space, adorned with vibrant flowers at nearly every corner, filling the air with a comforting fragrance that made it feel like a sanctuary. Naruto's gaze drifted toward one of the windows, where he noticed her tending to a few blossoming plants, her gentle movements showcasing a deep affection for nature. Well, I just recently received my license, Naruto replied with a slight shrug, a mixture of pride and nervousness in his voice. So, this is essentially my first mission here in Earthland. Strange words, Anna mused, her tone teasing yet thoughtful. Naruto blinked, caught off guard. Huh, you said here in Earthland? Are you from another world or something? Anna laughed, her eyes sparkling with amusement as Naruto's expression shifted to one of surprise. He couldn't help but chuckle along with her, quickly recovering from the unexpected question. I didn't mean it like that. I've mostly lived in the mountains with my master since I was born, so you could say I'm still getting used to this place, he explained, a sheepish smile spreading across his face. If you say so. Anna turned to him, a warm smile lighting up her features. I'm guessing you were the mage I sensed earlier. Naruto raised an eyebrow, intrigued. You're a mage? Anna chuckled lightly, shaking her head. Something like that. I don't belong to a guild or anything. I just use magic to make my life easier. Naruto's interest piqued. So, no joining guilds, going on missions, battling enemies? None of that? Nope. Anna shook her head firmly. I've never found any interest in that. Given how few people can actually use magic, you might think I'm wasting my potential. I actually don't think so, Naruto countered, his voice steady. If everyone were like you, we wouldn't be in this situation. Anna's eyes glimmered with intrigue. So you think a mage is responsible for this crisis? It's faint, but I can trace a residue of dark energy, he replied, glancing at the photographs adorning the walls. It feels like it was planted and allowed to grow unchecked. We can try to address the illness, then look for those responsible. I'm afraid the first patient is no longer with us, Anna said, her tone growing somber. He died 5 days after being diagnosed. We didn't realize how long it took for the disease to propagate, and we still don't fully understand it. Our physician, Hayashi, has been working tirelessly to develop a test for it, but so far, he's had no success. Whatever it is, it bonds to the body so intricately that by the time the illness is detected, it has likely already been transmitted. So you're dealing with an endemic, Naruto observed, processing the information. Yes, Anna confirmed, her voice heavy with worry. Our town of Alberton has been besieged by crises, like many other towns in Crocus. But an endemic? That's something far more sinister. If that's the case, I'm certain it's an attack. Why do you say that? Naruto asked, intrigued. My abilities revolve around the sanctity of life and its preservation. Before this crisis, the people here lived well into their hundreds. It was rare to see someone fall ill. I never wanted to delve too deeply into the knowledge of my powers, but I felt I needed to understand their intricacies. Anna sighed deeply, a shadow of regret crossing her features. Perhaps if I were skilled enough, blaming yourself won't solve anything. It never does. It only adds another flimsy barrier to your goals, Naruto interjected firmly. You're right, she conceded, nodding slowly. One thing puzzles me, though, Naruto continued, a thoughtful expression on his face. Esker mentioned that no mages had been hired to combat this situation. I understand there's a financial constraint, but I can't shake the feeling that there's something more to it. It's not that we haven't been hiring mages, Simon interjected, stepping into the room and drawing their attention. In fact, you're the 15th mage to set foot here in Alberton. 15th? Naruto echoed, surprised. Yes, Anna said, her voice tinged with sadness as she looked down. The 14 before you, they're all dead. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. What? We've been hiring powerful mages to help us, but unfortunately, they all met their demise, Anna explained, her voice heavy with sorrow. We would bring in healers as well, but they would inevitably fall victim to the illness due to their close contact with the patients. Why hasn't the Magic Council intervened? Naruto asked, frustration creeping into his voice. Apparently, they're more focused on the man who fell from the sky, Simon muttered, a hint of judgment lacing his words. It's infuriating that they ignore our plight. Naruto clenched his fist slowly, his anger simmering beneath the surface. And the people here? They can't leave? Anna's grip on her wheelchair tightened. We tried to evacuate a few people secretly, but they contracted the illness and died very quickly. We had to cover it up, claiming it was bandit activity. The moment they find out, chaos, Naruto concluded, understanding the weight of their situation. He turned back to them. Have you made any progress in locating the source of this illness? I suspect it's a power or disease capable of draining and corrupting the life forces of individuals, Anna explained, her brow furrowing in concentration. But we still don't know what it is. One symptom we've identified is the occurrence of nightmares. Nightmares? Naruto asked, intrigued. Yes, Anna continued, her voice trembling slightly. Before the patients fall unconscious, they speak of nightmares. Nightmares that feel all too real. What do you mean? It's astonishing. It's as if they are trapped somewhere else, and it might hold a clue to what is happening. We've pinpointed a surge of activity in the southern part of town, near the holding facilities for criminals. Unfortunately, the mages sent to investigate have. Anna's voice trailed off as she reached for her heart, a pained expression crossing her face. Anna! Simon exclaimed, rushing to her side. Naruto looked at Simon, concern etched on his features. Is she all right? Simon quickly administered a concoction he had been preparing. Anna drank it down, letting out a relieved sigh. With a humorous glint in her eye, she looked at Naruto. Old age sure has its drawbacks. Perhaps I can help, Naruto suggested, stepping closer. Simon blinked, taken aback. You're a healer? Something like that, Naruto replied, his confidence unwavering. Forgive my skepticism, but all the healers we've hired have been unable to help. It's a persistent complication, Simon replied, crossing his arms. Well, I'm not them, am I? Naruto retorted playfully as he crouched down to her level. His palm began to glow green as he concentrated on her heart, channeling his healing chakra. Every disease has an origin, be it a deterioration of a specific part of the body or an external influence. I just need to locate that one anomaly. As Naruto focused, Anna exhaled slowly, her eyes widening in realization. In that moment, she felt as though she was being pulled into something beyond her understanding. Earthland became a mere speck beneath her as she looked upwards, feeling the vastness of existence stretched before her. Although fleeting, the moment felt elongated, filled with profound significance. When Naruto finally withdrew his hand, Simon helped her steady herself. Are you okay, Anna? Simon asked, concern etched across his face. Anna reopened her eyes, reaching for her heart, no longer feeling the tight knot that had always been there. That was, yes, Anna, you were infected, Naruto affirmed, standing back up. Simon's eyes widened in shock. What? That heart problem was just your body's way of fighting it off, Naruto explained. Thanks to your abilities, you've been protecting both yourself and Simon. Simon looked stunned. You mean, she shielded you both, Naruto elaborated, his voice steady. Her powers might be more useful than we initially thought. I'm curious to learn more about them. That energy, Anna murmured, staring up into Naruto's eyes, realization dawning on her. It was you, wasn't it? Huh? Naruto replied, momentarily puzzled. The man who fell from the sky, she clarified. Simon turned to Naruto, his expression a mix of shock and suspicion. Who are you? Are you the cause of this? Please, Naruto chuckled lightly. If I wanted to drain life forces, I could do that in an instant. I'm here to offer my help. This time, I don't think you'll be recording another fatality, am I wrong? What do you plan to do now? Simon asked, his tone cautious yet intrigued. I'm heading south to investigate what's happening there, Naruto replied, moving towards the door. I'll probably do that tomorrow. It's getting pretty dark out, don't you think? With those final words, Naruto vanished from the cottage, leaving Anna and Simon in a profound silence, both grappling with the revelation of his true identity and the burden of the challenge that lay ahead. Her ability intrigues you, doesn't it? It's quite fascinating, able to peer into dimensions, using you as a conduit, a smooth voice taunted from the shadows. Naruto's eyes narrowed instinctively as he recognized the voice. The familiar surroundings began to take shape around him, pulling him into a disquieting familiarity. He slowly turned, his heart quickening as he laid eyes on the figure leaning casually against a nearby tree. Madara, he stated, a mix of annoyance and wariness lacing his tone. Madara's lips curled into a smirk, his demeanor exuding a relaxed confidence. He stood with his arms crossed, his piercing eyes closed, as if savoring the moment. I don't particularly enjoy this prison, he mused, gesturing around with a dismissive wave. Stuck here within your mind, yet still burdened with my own thoughts, my own resolutions. It must be akin to how the Kyuubi felt, trapped in a cage. Such a tragedy for a beast of that power to be reduced to nothing more than a mere source of energy. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling a surge of defiance rise within him. He chooses to be here. He could go anywhere he wished, he shot back, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. Madara chuckled softly, tilting his head to one side as if amused by Naruto's unwavering optimism. Oh, Naruto, Naruto, it seems war has done little to remove that veil of naivete from your eyes. Despite everything, you still insist on seeing the good in all things. It's almost endearing. Well, I suppose I can only offer so much assistance in expanding your perspective. Naruto's expression hardened, determination flaring in his gaze. I see clearly, Madara, he replied firmly, each word dripping with conviction. And you will remain here, imprisoned by me. Until the day I die. Oh, is that so? Madara's grin widened, his eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and intrigue. I eagerly await our future meetings, Uzumaki. As the tension hung in the air, Naruto felt a heavy weight settle in the pit of his stomach. This was more than just a battle of wills. It was a clash of ideals and destinies. With each encounter, the stakes grew higher, and the line between light and darkness blurred. Yuki opened the door to her home, a wave of exhaustion washing over her, as she scrunched her face and stifled a yawn. I'm really tired, she thought, wishing for a moment of peace in the chaos of her life. As she stepped inside, her foot collided with an object on the floor. Blinking in confusion, she looked down to find the dining table lying on its side, a stark sign of disruption. What happened here? A sense of alarm crept into her thoughts as she scanned the room, taking in the disarray that surrounded her. Robbers? Panic surged through her veins. She dashed into the adjacent room, her heart racing. Esker! She called out, her voice trembling with fear. Her heart sank as she entered the room, only to find it in tatters. Toys were strewn across the floor, and the bedclothes lay in disarray. Frantically, she searched every corner of the house, her anxiety mounting with each passing moment. Esker! Just then, she heard a faint cough echoing through the silence. Her heart leaped with hope, and she sprinted toward her room. As she flung the door open, her breath caught in her throat. There, on the ground, lay her son Esker, his face turned away from her, blood seeping from a wound on his forehead. Esker! She cried, rushing to his side. Dropping to her knees, she wrapped him in her arms, cradling him close as tears streamed down her face. Oh, Esker! She frantically examined him, noting the minor cuts and scratches marring his skin, but the sight of him in pain sent waves of despair crashing over her. The hospital was too far away, and the thought of exposing him to the infected patients there made her stomach churn. She had to find supplies. Desperate, she hoisted him up and started for the store, her heart racing with dread. They were everywhere, Mom, Esker mumbled, his voice hoarse and distant. Yuki turned back, alarmed by his dazed expression. Esker! She cried, feeling a chill creep down her spine. Who were they? What happened? I couldn't stop them. They wanted to kill me. His words struck her like a thunderclap, sending her mind spiraling into a haze of horror. No. Her heart raced as realization dawned upon her. She recalled the stories her husband had told her, tales of terror that paralleled what their son was now describing. They had all suffered in different ways, but the end point was always the same. No. Her lips trembled as Esker continued, his voice trembling with fear. Monsters, they were everywhere. She could see the growing black mass enveloping his body, creeping closer with each passing second. Help me, Mom. I'm scared, he whimpered, his innocent eyes reflecting sheer terror. No. She covered her trembling lips with her hands, trying to stifle a sob as tears streamed down her cheeks. Not Esker. Not my boy. Watching her son endure this horrifying transformation was a nightmare made real. She felt utterly helpless, a parent unable to protect her child. As she sank to the floor, her cries echoed in the stillness of the room, mingling with the darkness that encroached upon them. Her son was infected, and deep down, she knew the end would not be good. As despair washed over her, the weight of the situation settled heavily on her heart. The love she had for Esker clashed violently with the reality before her. This wasn't just a moment of chaos. It was a harbinger of something far worse. In that moment, she felt her strength wane, overwhelmed by the fear of losing everything she held dear. What if Naruto has Madara Sharingan in Fairy Tail? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.